Welcome to episode 7 of the Dimensional Cascade podcast. With me in the dungeon in Shoreline, I have
Ricky,
Tom,
and I'm Aiden. Taylor is once again bowing out. However, the good news is he has sold his demons and ready to buy the Dark Elves.
he's just on sabbatical.
He's on sabbatical. Once he comes back a Dark Elf convert, he'll be very happy to jump right in again and sacrifice a few dudes.
or dudettes.
Or dudettes, yeah, that's true.
They don't discriminate.
Damn bitches be crazy.
Yeah.
So we
Bros before hoes, man.
I'm not sure that's true in the Dark Elf
No,
army.
that's not
I don't
true.
think. Well, I
probably
don't know.
hoes before
Brolocks,
bros.
maybe. Who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows? Okay, so tonight we're going to finish off our review of the Dwarf book. So we're going to cover up the war machines, and that includes the gyrocopters and gyrobombers. We're going to talk about runic magic, and then go into some army list builds and tactics and various things along that line. We're going to have a brief roundup of news and rumors, because if we don't, I'll probably explode. And that's a hint. They're about wood elves. And
Or sexual repression.
potato.
Yeah.
And we're going to start it off, as we usually do, with the pit.
Yay.
Yeah. Woo. The pit. The pit. The pit. After the Battle of Griffin Pass, Alith Anar captured 700 Dark Elves and had them nailed high upon the white cliffs overlooking the narrow valley, where they hung until they died. The corpses were suspended for years afterwards, until their flesh rotted and their bones tumbled into piles beside the road. Such is the power of the place that these bones can be seen to this day, together with the red marks left by Alith Anar's iron nails upon the cliffs.
Woo.
Solid.
All right, that is Alith Anar, the Shadow King.
Pretty badass for an elf.
Yeah, so he's definitely one of the less well-known high elf special characters. I think partially because his model is a bit crappy.
Yeah.
Although his fluff is cool and his pictures are really cool.
Yeah, the art
Yeah.
for him is awesome.
And I think the rules for him are pretty good
Yeah.
The
too.
rules are good too, and I love Shadow Warriors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think where he suffers is there's just so many other good choices in their book.
there are.
What especially sucks for that model now is that the new Shadow Warriors models are beautiful.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
They're like all masked and
I wish they
just
could have.
crazy awesome.
You know how they're
looking.
doing with some of the kits incorporating
Yeah,
characters.
they could have had.
I wish
an
they could have
option to
just
make 'em.
thrown in 2 bits to make him.
Yeah.
in that kit.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Okay, well, let's go. We'll go through his rules, and then we will bring back our defending champion.
Sure.
So Alith Anar is, like all high elves, always strikes first. He has hatred of dark elves, martial prowess, which isn't going to come into effect here. He can scout, also not going to come into effect here. And Valor of Ages,
Unless he wants to start way closer to Sigvald than he
Yeah.
is already.
also not in effect here. Yeah, exactly. So really, the only thing that's relevant from the regular rules is ASF.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, Sigvald also has ASF, so,
So they'll
that's
cancel
out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Who has the higher initiative?
doesn't matter. They strike at the same time. If you've both got ASF,
I thought then it goes to initiative order.
that's not true.
Is that not true?
No, if you both have
Oh,
ASF,
yeah,
you
yeah.
strike
I'm
simultaneously.
thinking of ASF with ASL.
Yeah,
combined.
then you go to initiative.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
Continue.
Okay, so his magic items, he's got Stone of Midnight, which is a 4-up ward save talisman, and it also gives anyone shooting at him and his unit -1 to hit. So at least the 4-up
Well,
ward
the 4-up will be nice,
useful.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Shadow Crown, which is an enchanted item to give him and his unit Swift Stride. So he's really good in a unit of
Yeah.
other elves. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, and this is the most interesting part because it's the first time we've had somebody with something like this. He's got a magic weapon that is a missile weapon. It's the Moon Bow. It's a bolt thrower. It's range 36
that'll do
inches.
it.
Range 36 inches, strength 7, multiple wounds D3.
Strength 7, so
Strength
it's better
7.
than a bolt thrower.
It's better than a bolt thrower, but it uses the bolt thrower rules.
Huh.
Multiple wounds D3 and quick to fire. So
He gets to stand and shoot with
you
it.
don't get any armor saves. So he gets to shoot with it and stand and shoot with it and potentially do D3 wounds.
Hopefully you get 2 rounds of shooting, then a stand and shoot.
Yeah. And so, there's a very strong chance he'll just get made into mincemeat if Sigvald can get into close combat.
He is a lord level. He does have 3 wounds.
He's lord level,
and-
but he's only strength 4.
He's not strong enough to get through Sigvald's.
It's getting through the armor,
Yeah,
and so forth. So if you can chip off a couple of wounds with the bow, there's a strong chance he'll win.
Sure.
All right, so that is Alathanar.
Does he have any armor to speak of? Or just heavy, probably?
Oh, I don't know. There's nothing listed in here. Let me just
It'll
check.
be on his,
Let me check in
his
the...
profile back there, but maybe only light.
He only has light
Okay,
armor.
so no save.
Yeah, no save
Against
for him.
Sigvald.
Yeah.
In this fight, that's for sure.
All right, well, just the ward.
Yep.
Okay, on to Sigvald. I will read for you now a little bit about the year 2518. It's about me, yeah? Prince Sigvald the Magnificent has the Bretonian township of Schomburg razed because the wine it produced was not to his taste. Yeah, it was disgusting.
What a douche.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
Oh.
That is a direct
What a
well,
poser.
maybe not exactly a direct quote, but pretty close from the Warriors of Chaos timeline.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get this show on the road.
Let's get it going.
I get to roll some dice.
Yeah, we're going to have Ricky rolling for Sigvald.
Wait. I don't want to touch him.
No, you're rolling, man. You're rolling for
Oh,
Sigvald.
fine.
And then Aiden's going to be rolling for
Alathanar.
Alathanar, and I'll call the dice.
Is he Aelith or Aleth?
I
What do
would
you
say
think?
Aelith.
Aelith.
Aelith? Wow.
Oh, all right,
I don't know.
Aelith works. Whatever.
Get some dice here to kill you with.
Yep.
All right. All right.
First turn,
first
guys.
turn.
Let's see him.
Oh.
Oh, 1 for Sigvald.
And a whopping
And a
6 for
Alathanar.
Alathanar.
All right,
well.
let's do it.
There we go. I'm gonna get shot.
I'm gonna stay where I am.
What's the range on that bow?
36.
All right.
Yeah, 36. So I'm at long range, but I've got ballistic skill 7, so I'm hitting you on a 2. Here we go.
This is gonna hurt.
It's a hit.
4. It's a hit.
Okay.
It's a hit.
Strength 7. What's your toughness?
5.
All right, 2 up to wound.
Yep.
It's a wounds on a 2.
Okay.
Wounds on a 2.
All right.
So I have no armor save with that, basically.
No, it's -4 from strength. Oh, you don't
No,
get
for
an armor
bolt
save.
foe,
Yeah,
no
it
armor
says
save.
no armor save.
So I just have the 4-up regen. Here we
For
go.
up regen. Failed
Oh,
on
I
1.
rolled a 1.
All
Okay,
right.
this could be over very
To
quickly.
finish it.
How many wounds does he have?
He has 3, so...
He has
Is he-
3.
Is he 3?
D3
Okay.
wounds.
D3
Let's see
wounds.
what we got.
D3 wounds.
1 wound.
One wound.
Okay.
I'm still
Okay.
in it. I'm still in
Sigvald is down to 2 wounds.
it. All right, my turn.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sigvald's turn.
All right, so I'm gonna move forward 8 inches.
Okay.
it seems good.
What's Alathanar going to do this turn?
I'm
I
gonna
wonder?
shoot you
You're gonna
again.
shoot him? All right, good choice.
I think so.
On a 2-up.
On a 2 up. And it hits with a 5.
On a 2-up to wound.
Yeah. Wounds on a
wounds.
5.
All right, take the
4 up
regen.
regen.
Come
This
on,
is
Sigvald.
incredibly satisfying, by the way.
Oh,
wait.
he saved it with the
Regen.
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 All right.
All right.
Over to Sigvald's turn 2. No,
No.
you're not in
16
charge,
inches,
Aiden.
you're not
You
in
just
charge.
got to go for it. Another 8 inches up the field, putting them at
Yep.
8 inches away now.
I'm going to shoot again.
Okay, Alathanar's going to shoot.
Missed.
Oh, he misses on a
finally.
1.
All right,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
charging.
I'm
He's
going to stand
charging.
and shoot.
We're 8 inches away. Let's resolve the stand and shoot first. On
Okay.
hits on a 2.
Hits on a 4 and
on a 4.
wounds on a 6.
Wounds on a 6.
Okay, here we go.
Regen.
We're-
Regen.
Fails.
Failed. He's going to take D3 wounds.
D3
It
wounds.
Could be it.
This could be it all over.
Oh,
no, just the one wound.
1 wound. Okay.
All right, see if you make it.
Okay.
You got
here we-
8 inches. Move for. He's in.
He's
Oh,
in.
man.
All right.
Sigvald's into
Oh,
combat.
no.
It could be over.
That's,
Well, he's only got 1 wound left.
And he has 1 wound left.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to strike simultaneously.
Simultaneously, yep.
Let's just resolve.
So I have 7 attacks, right? With this guy.
Yes, that's right.
7. Okay, we'll resolve Sigvald first and then
Go for it.
go to Alathanar.
All right. There's no fear or anything on either.
Weapon skills?
What's your weapon skill?
8.
I'm weapon skill 7, so I'm hitting you on 4s.
Sigvald
You're
on
hitting me on
3s.
3s.
I don't have hatred or anything.
No.
No,
Okay,
so 4 hits.
4 hits. And I am strength 5.
And
Your
I'm
toughness,
toughness elf. Yeah.
toughness 3.
3
Oh.
wounds.
3 wounds on Alathanar.
4 upward. Oh, saved 1.
Saved 1.
He's still alive.
So he's going
Down
to be
to
down to
wound.
1 wound, but he's still got his strikes for this turn.
All right, so I need a 4 up to hit. I got 4 attacks. I get none.
None attacks.
Ugh.
3 3s and a 1.
That's terrible.
Okay, now Aelathanar loses combat by 3 because he got charged and lost 2 wounds. So
It's true. And
let's see if we have our first flee and
not
pursue
stubborn or anything. So
in the pit here.
all right, leadership 10, so 7 or
On a
less.
7. He's fine.
I'm
He
good.
makes
Okay.
it. But
All right, let's do the next
Well, the
round.
fun part is I'd be swift stride, so that was
Ah,
probably
yeah,
Oh, yeah. That's
he'd be off the table.
out of the pit.
all right.
All right. Second round of
Simo?
combat.
Should we do a
Yeah.
Simo?
You want to do it Simo?
Roll them
Simo?
at the same time.
Sure,
So
okay, let's
for the
go.
hits, looks like we've
Okay.
got 3 hits from
3 hits.
Alathanar and 5 hits
Five.
from Sigvold. So
Alright.
rolling to wound now at the same time. Looks like we've got 4 from
None.
Sigvold and none from Alathanar.
Okay.
All right. 4.
All right.
4 4's up.
4 boards.
No.
Doesn't make any
he's
of it.
dead.
And Alathanar's dead.
Dang, I shot him twice and
Wow.
rolled 1 wound each time.
I know.
can't believe
Otherwise,
that.
you would have had him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, damn you, Sigvald.
That bow's pretty powerful. But
It
is
the
pretty
good.
rolling just
That
didn't,
it was
Didn't-
brutal.
didn't
didn't
go
match
with
up
me.
to the bow's
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
if you had rolled average, at least he would be dead.
He would be
Yeah.
very dead. Yeah.
So,
Well, that was cool.
Yeah.
Shame, like I
Sl-
said, shame the
Slanesh
model is a
deflects
bit-
those shots, and
Yeah, scumbag.
Sigvold
yeah, I'm looking.
reigns.
If I played High Elves, I would definitely include this guy in some way.
You
For
need,
sure.
you need to. I think you'd need to convert your own model.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, for sure. I would suggest either the Wave Watcher model with a sword glued on him, or
Yeah.
something.
A kit
something
bash
similar.
using some bits of the Shadow Warriors and some
Yeah.
like cooler head or weapons
Yeah,
and
it
stuff.
might be pretty cool. But yep,
All right.
All right,
Sweet.
who's next?
It
do we
is. Oh, next in the pit.
Shadowblade?
Shadowblade is
Shadowblade.
next.
Oh,
Oh.
the assassin.
Yeah, that's a cool model.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
not
looking forward to-
terribly sneaky, but still a very cool model.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to painting that one up.
All right,
So.
sweet.
Lots of
Alright.
black should go fast, right?
Sigvold will return.
Yeah, I am the victor, of course, because I'm so good looking.
News and rumors.
News and rumors. Okay, Wood Elves, yay! Sorry, I got a little excited there.
Is that news or a rumor?
Yes to both. So, there have been leaked pictures of the next White Dwarf, and Games Workshop has also had a teaser video.
Yeah.
Wood Elves are going to be featured in the White Dwarf that comes out on Saturday, which is 2 days from our recording date. Pre-orders for the stuff in the White Dwarf will happen then, and then they'll be released the following week.
Yeah, so it should
So
be
this is the White
first
Dwarf.
wave.
This White Dwarf comes out tomorrow.
Yes,
Officially?
the
So there's
Saturday.
still been
Saturday.
no, apart from the teaser, there's been no official announcement of Wood Elves, but we've seen these pictures from
Yes.
White.
Yes.
People have somehow got their hands on White
Some
Dwarf
people
early.
get it a little early. Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. So there's at least one guy in the Wood Elf forum got his today,
Okay.
which is Thursday in the UK. So I'm guessing it's normally Friday they start to get them.
Sure.
So
So we
let's-
know from this one that this week's releases we have the book,
the book.
first and foremost.
Both there's 3 versions: the regular version, limited edition, and digital are
Mm-hmm.
all going to be released at the same time.
And that's kind of, it's breaking the mold of the kind of weekly releases so far that they did for the Dwarfs and then the Imperial Guard for 40k, where they've waited till the
Yeah.
second week to release the book.
Yeah, and so I don't know if that's because they've got their kind of the release schedule down better, or they took feedback. But either way, I'm excited about getting the book first.
I think
Yeah, I
honestly
think
it's probably
it's
because
better.
they're only there's only going to be 2 weeks of releases of actual models, which means, so obviously when the book comes out, then everybody can see all the models that are going to be available for the whole release.
Yeah, because by the
Yeah.
time you
So-
have the book in hand, you'll know what the
Yeah,
other
you'll know
models
what the
are.
other models are going to be
That
anyway. Whereas if there was going to be like 3 weeks
Sounds
of models,
feasible for sure. Yeah.
that makes
Uh,
sense.
So that's kind of a bummer that it's only going to be 2 weeks. Although I'll believe that when it actually
yeah, I
happens.
mean
yeah.
that's still unconfirmed.
So the kits that we know are coming, there's a Tree Man kit, which is a Durthu, a Tree Man Ancient, and a Tree Man. Looks to be a ton of different builds you can do with it.
Yeah.
I've
I'm
seen
excited
5
about
or
that.
6
So
different
many
builds.
options and
I think the paint jobs that we've seen so far, some of them are like bright blues and reds, and
well, Durthu is kind of black and blue, right?
and he's carrying a big flaming looking sword thing,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
And that was because that's the cover of the White Dwarf. I think
Yeah.
that's the picture that everybody saw first of what the Tree Man would be, and everyone was
like,
kind
whoa,
of
what's going on?
disappointed. But I think the pictures that have
on
come
the
out
inside.
since then
Yeah,
look incredible.
I'm
I'm
actually pretty
excited.
excited about that kit, and I've already got 3 tree men. So
So if we just describe it, it's kind of a departure from what tree men look like at the moment, and gone in the direction of looking like a scaled up dryad almost.
very much so,
That kind of
Yeah.
facial structure, and rather than looking like a tree.
and covered
is-
in runes, and you know,
And,
very
s-
magical
spikes.
and
Yeah.
spikes. Yeah,
And I think
I
there's
think
a lot of
it's-
magical
Yeah.
swirly bits actually holding it together.
and also looks very
pretty cool.
agile. And,
Yeah,
and
much
and
more graceful than the
yeah,
big kind of stompy
exactly.
tree thing that we
Still
have.
going to be initiative too, though.
Sure.
Darthu has initiative too. Some cool things I'm excited about. They brought back the tree whack from the old Wood Elf book.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was an old
Yep,
thing.
Darthu used
You
to be
mean
able
the
to do
beach
the tree.
slap?
Yeah, the beach slap. Yeah. Oh no, it's the Willow Maker.
Okay.
Keep them coming. Got any more?
There's a whole thread of attacks for tree men, and also alternative names like Morgan Treeman, Keanu Leaves,
Danny Trejo.
Spruce Twigstein, etc. Almond Schwarzenegger.
Bruce Tree.
Oh my god.
So
Anyway.
yes, that's how I've been
This
passing
is
my
what.
time.
Yeah, this is what elf players are doing with their day at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Well,
me too, apparently.
Yeah.
when you're neglected for so many years,
Yeah,
you got to find a way to
exactly.
pass
Yeah,
your time.
we're all a little hyper.
Anyway,
So yes, a very exciting looking tree man kit. I think, like you said, the paint job kind of put people off, but there's a couple of pictures that have very kind of earthy, natural tones, and they look fantastic. New plastic character coming out, Araloth, who is a special character. He's a wood elf. He has always strikes first, which leads everyone to believe that, of course, wood elves are going to get always strikes first as well. He's basically Scar the Falconer from the old book.
I don't know this guy either.
Yeah, dude, you're not
This is
old school
old.
enough. Yeah. Scar was basically like a beastmaster type who had this little bird who could, he had falcon. He had a little special attack with the falcon. Same idea. This guy has a falcon that'll take your eye out. So his special rules are kind of neat. If you score a hit with the little birds, an automatic hit. If it scores an unsaved wound, you get -5 weapon skill for the rest of the game.
Because you lost your eye.
Because you lost your eye.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And the model is great.
I like the
think,
model quite a bit. I think the horns are a little bit big.
Oh, he has like really big antler.
He has really
like-
big antler looking things.
But the bird coming off the hand looks pretty
looks
very
nice.
natural and
yeah,
graceful.
yeah. I'm excited to see the kit and the plastic character kits that they've been bringing out have been seamless in terms
Awesome.
of how well they go together. And
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that guy. They're re-releasing the War Dancer Hero model
In resin.
in Finecast and calling it a Shadow Dancer.
Interesting.
Is that going to be a character then, you think?
So what we
the one
what seems
that's
to be
like doing the shooty?
No, the
No,
one who's
no,
like
the
has
War
a
Dancer,
spear
the
up
big
in the
spear,
sky
yeah.
and, like,
Oh, okay. War Dancer.
I'm doing
War
a
Dancer,
crazy
yeah.
pose here that you
So
can't
almost
see
the roadkill one, but
Kinda,
it was
but
kind
it's
of
much
okay.
more dynamic.
much more
Yeah.
dynamic. Yeah,
I have that
yeah.
one.
Yeah. So this really follows the trend that they had in the High Elf and Dark Elf
And
books.
where they have a special kind of lord.
special lord, yeah. And so at the moment,
anointed of Assyrian and the fleet master. for the
exactly
Dark
at
Elves,
the moment, the Wood Elves can take heroes or lords and then give them a kindred. And this is basically saying, well, and this was kind of suspected that the kindreds would be dropped, but then
Yeah.
they'd put some special lords in, like a War Dancer lord or hero.
Sure.
And potentially some of the other more iconic ones, like
Yep,
the Wild
it'll bring the
Riders.
book more in line with 8th edition stuff.
Yep,
So-
yep. And so Shadow Dancers is also how they're referred to in the novels that have been
Okay.
coming out. So that's
So
that's the
first
models.
week release.
Yep.
We got the Tree Man, the special character in the re-release.
And they on the model front,
Mm-hmm.
and then we talked about the books. And the other bombshell is the spell cards or the battle magic cards that they're getting. It's confirmed that Wood Elves are getting both dark magic and high magic with their own lore attributes on each one.
Mm-hmm.
Plus all 8 schools.
Plus all 8 schools. There's like 10 schools of
More
magic.
magic.
Yeah, I know.
All
10 lores.
magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really what they needed. I mean, just that. If they change nothing else, that alone is going to make that army
Well,
very powerful.
yeah, for sure. It gives it a bunch of versatility, which is great.
And different builds as well,
Yeah.
which will be really
Yeah.
nice.
Right,
'Cause
right.
That's kind of what the Wood Elves are lacking at the moment.
Very
as well,
much
is
so.
just-
Every Wood Elf army you see in a competitive situation is 80% the same.
yeah.
And I think the some of the rules have been confirmed just from the White Dwarf. So Forest Spirits, for example, had the old demon save of 5 up ward unless it was a magical attack. That's been changed now to 6 up hard ward. And everything else remains the same. Immune to psychology, Forest Strider, magical attacks.
Is the Tree Man still flammable? Because I didn't.
Tree Man is still flammable. Well, at least Dirthu is flammable.
Okay,
Obviously, Tree
alright.
Man's going to be as well.
Because I was wondering if they would like turning them more Dryad-like, if they would kind of take that away. But
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, so
Good to know I can still burn the Tree Man.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's true. With all the different options and stuff, people are suspecting the Tree Men are going to have a bunch of possible upgrades that you
Yeah.
can take on them.
So the Tree Man Ancient looks much more like a wizard than any Tree Man model in the past has. He has
Dirthu is a wizard.
Dirthu is a wizard.
He's a level 1 on beasts.
Okay.
So you're going to roll and see if you can get either the Pan's Impenetrable Pelt or the Savage Beast on him, so that he can boost himself
Yeah.
without the boosted version. I mean, that's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to take Wissons, which is
Yeah.
fine anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's tough 6, strength 6 to begin with, and he's got 7 attacks because he's got 6 base plus frenzy. So he's going to be an interesting potential choice at 385 points.
That's
which
pretty
is
good. For
that's only
like a
100.
monster.
It's only 100 more than the
character.
current Tree Man price.
Yeah.
And with only a 6 up ward, it's pretty.
Well, no, this is the part we don't. This is the part we don't
There's
know.
one rule we don't know.
There's
which
one
is-
rule we don't know. Blessings of the Ancients.
Which sounds like it would be a better
It might
ward
be
save.
Sounds like
some
a ward
boost to
save.
that ward
Yeah,
save,
yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Because that's what otherwise, you've got a 385 point cannon fodder model.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, it would suck if it was just a 6 up ward. Okay, I could talk about what else all day, but that's not.
we should
where
save
really
it
focus.
for when we actually have some more solid information.
Yep.
Or-
By the
or
time
yeah.
by the time we do the next podcast, we'll either have the book in hand or potentially at least a bunch of spoilers. So
But like with the dwarfs, we'll wait and do the review when we've really play
Yep.
tested.
absolutely,
and given
absolutely.
it some
So
thought.
okay, cool. So that is kind of GW news.
Well, I don't know, GW's release this week was like a new hobby kit. Well, a whole new line of hobby
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I don't know if-
Tools. Yeah.
have you looked at them or think they look?
I
mean,
looked
they're
at them, but
expensive, obviously, but I'm
they're
wondering
super.
if they're going to be.
Yeah, they're super expensive, but who knows? Maybe they're actually worth the
Yeah.
money.
They
but
look pretty nice.
the thing is anybody who's been in the hobby for more than a few months should have all of that stuff.
Yeah,
probably.
but stuff needs replacing. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. But there's probably going to be cheaper places
Sure.
to get it.
There'll always be cheaper places.
But I think it looks like it's always hard to tell whether they were photoshopping stuff to make it look better or not. But from what it looks like in the photos, it looks like it's well manufactured. So
Yep.
as long as the metal is good and
Mm-hmm.
stays sharp, then it's a good option for people. But
So the full tool set is $150.
well, that's the limited one.
That's
but
the limited one.
Still,
I mean, that's the full set.
Yeah.
Everything you can't buy
everything
this
separately.
You can only buy them separately, and if you add them up, it's about the same price.
yeah.
So the limited one just gives you a nice carry case for it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And in that you get some snips or cutters, as they call them, fine detail cutters, a drill, which is a little hand drill, a knife, a sculpting tool set, and a mold line remover.
Mm-hmm.
How is a mold line remover different from a knife?
It's the shape of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of more like it's got a very fine tip, and then it gradually rounds out
Does
to
it
be
work any
wider.
better than a knife?
Well,
I've
when
always
I-
just used a knife for that, and it seems to
well,
work fine.
they're designed, I think, more for fine cast, where a
Okay.
knife is too sharp. You actually end up cutting into the fine cast. This is more for just scraping a little bit. And so when you're doing that scraping, you just want a tool that's got about a 90-degree clean edge on it,
Okay.
because that 90-degree clean edge just kind of takes it down a bit without cutting
Do you
into
use
it.
that?
I use something similar.
Okay.
I use a sculpting tool that has an edge that's a little bit more squared off, and so I use something very similar.
Okay.
But I do know, I've heard from some guys who have used those, and they liked using them on the fine cast. So
Actually, the tools all add up to $141 if you buy them individually. So you're paying $9 for the
For a
little carry case.
yeah,
So I mean, I think those look reasonable.
I was the only one that I was kind of interested in was the drill, because I do a lot of drilling to pin stuff that I'm converting, and often I've gone through a couple of different drills now that have turned out to be kind of piles of crap from kind of third party.
I think the best bet if you're doing a lot of drilling is to get a pin vise and a Dremel, just because you can get so much more accurate with those, I've found anyway.
What are they? How are they different?
So I mean, do you have a vise to keep things in place?
No, to keep the model in place.
Keep the model in place, yeah.
I just hold it and then I have the little hand drill.
And I find that a little inaccurate, and it hurts your hands, and sometimes the bit will slip and various other things.
That's true.
So if you're doing a lot of drilling, you get the vise. I've got one. You're welcome to borrow.
All right.
And it's got two big rubber bushes on the side, so it can kind of clamp on anything you need to hold. And then there's the Dremel. You can vary the speed, and you can put the same bits into it, same depth of bits, and just
And when
drill
you do
into
it,
it,
don't put a lot of pressure. You just kind of hold it there and let it slowly bite in.
Yeah.
Because it goes so much faster and easier.
All right, this sounds like a good hobby horse.
A little bit of a hobby tip. Yeah, there you go.
For another time.
So lastly, we have a little bit of local news.
Yeah, so we're going to run a Dimensional Cascade Doubles Day. We have a date in mind, right?
The 18th of May, yeah.
The 18th of May.
It should be at Card Kingdom. I'm still waiting for them to email me back and say, yes, for sure, we're going to host it there. If we don't host it there, it's not such a big deal. It's only 4 tables. We can find a space somewhere to fit 4 tables.
Like the dungeon.
Like here. We could fit it here. We could...
and there's no official sign up for Sparkle Party, but anyone interested,
just jump on the forum, find a partner. If you can't find a partner, just show up, and maybe we can rotate you into a team and play. You can play a game, and somebody else sits out for a game. The idea is just to do something a bit different from kind of one-on-one tournaments and get everybody together rolling dice. So each team has 3,000 points. Each player has a 1,500 point list, and we play 3 rounds, 2.5 hours, hour between, and it's just for fun. So nobody will defeat the unstoppable team of goblins and beastmen. That's true.
I don't know about that, guys.
I don't know. Maybe I should switch to the Skaven and beastmen.
I want to switch to the new Wood Elves. They look better.
I'm pretty sure I could just team up with anybody and beat you guys.
Oh, yeah, jeez. You just need your 1,500
Don't you know I got the new power army?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Such a power gamer. Just jumping on this army.
That's right. I'm the bandwagon guy.
Yeah, bandwagoning with the new Wood Elves.
Yeah. Okay, that's our news and rumors. We're going to forgo our tournament zone this week, and we will jump right into the Art of War, where we continue where we left off with the dwarves.
Yeah.
The Art of War.
Okay, so we're going to kick this off with the dwarf artillery. They have quite the range. So let's just go through the range of artillery that we're talking about. It's 5 different weapons. They've got a cannon, a grudge thrower, which is a stone thrower. Organ gun, which has some special rules we'll go into in a sec. Bolt thrower, and a flame cannon.
And so the cannon, grudge thrower, and bolt thrower are in your special choices.
Correct.
And organ gun and flame cannon are rare.
Yep.
Okay, so the cannon is just a regular cannon. So it's not actually a great cannon. To kind of get used to playing against Empire players, they always...
What's the difference? It's just a 60-inch or 48-inch.
I think that's the only difference.
I think that's the only, and
that's pretty much
doesn't
irrelevant.
Really matter on a standard gaming table. Not
terribly. It just means if you're in a corner, you could theoretically be out of range.
It means, if you had a kind of dwarf empire standoff and both castled in opposing corners and neither wanted to move anywhere, then the empire
his guns are bigger.
Would kind of outshoot the dwarf.
Yeah, it's always a shame when an empire player is able to outcannon a dwarf.
That is unfortunate, but
seems wrong.
The dwarf cannons can be made a lot better with runes, as we'll go into.
More
later.
Reliable.
Yep.
So
this cannon costs us 120 points.
Yeah.
As opposed to an Empire. Empire Great Cannon comes in at 100, I believe.
I think they're 120.
No, I think they're 120.
Oh, they're 122?
Yeah,
okay, so same price.
Yep.
You obviously have dwarfs as your crew, which is better.
Yeah, and they're stubborn.
Yeah, stubborn always.
So that's nice because
Leadership
one
9,
of the things that wipes out war machines when they send a chaff unit into the war machine is they get +1 or +2 combat res, and then you fail your break test, and that's the war machine gone.
Yeah, but leadership 9 stubborn is pretty good.
You got leadership 9 stubborn dwarfs.
Yeah, exactly.
And T4 obviously, which is going to help them just last a little longer.
That helps for sure. Okay, so
I mean, I generally think that when a war machine gets charged, it's going to be gone anyway. It's just a matter of whether it takes a turn or 2 turns.
One thing's
Though it depends if it's just some real terrible chaff charging it.
Yeah, it depends.
Dwarves actually can bait for that. They can plan for it with the immolation rune. So
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes they actually want that to happen.
Yeah, and we'll go into that when we're covering we'll go into that when we cover the runic magic.
Yeah, and then we'll come back and say what works best with what machines.
Yep. And so the grudge thrower, like I said, is just a stone thrower, straight out of the rulebook, but again with the same stubborn and tough 4 sort of specialness to it.
Coming in at 80 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm thinking about other stone throwers. I know the Bretonians have a trebuchet.
Trebuchet is much better though.
Is it?
Because it's strength 5.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. And
the stone thrower is only
it's 90
3.
points.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Bretonian trebuchet is a little out of the range. It's actually
it has 4 crew as well.
It does.
It does have 4
It's
crew.
actually a really good war machine.
Very frustrating.
Not really a fair thing to compare the.
Yep. I don't know any other stone throwers. I guess the Orc and Goblins have one.
Ones.
Yeah.
They come in at like 60 points or something, right?
Yeah, I think they are 60.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
But
the Doom Diver 65.
They're Orcs and Goblins.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Where everything's cheap.
Yeah.
All
They're
right.
slipshod, so they can roll 1, I think. Or no,
Okay.
that's only the bolt throwers. So yeah.
Bolt throwers. So this will cover off the specials. Bolt throwers, regular bolt thrower, again, same special rules, dwarf rules.
Bolt throwers hit with ballistic skill though. And
Yes,
dwarfs are not the greatest ballistic skill.
This is a unit that in this book was ruined. They increased the points cost a little bit. They took away, throughout all the war machines, they took away the ability to upgrade the unit with an extra crew member that gave you a better ballistic skill. So you basically got a unit champion engineer. And that was an auto include for the bolt throwers. You could get that ballistic skill 4. And when they took that away, raised the points cost, and sure, you can spend runes to rune it up, but once you start runing it up,
once it gets expensive for a bolt thrower.
It becomes really expensive.
No longer looks like a good deal.
And so I think the bolt throwers you're never going to see included anymore.
Comparing this to an elf bolt thrower, where you not only have the better ballistic skill, but you have the 2 different firing modes you can choose from as well. Yep. This looks like kind of a bad deal.
Yeah, they're making you pay points for the toughness for crew and stubborn, when it's not supposed to be something you pay combat stats for. You're supposed to pay for something that's shooty. And what I actually wish they would have done, instead of giving it 100 points of, available runes, maybe give it 25 points of available runes and keep its point cost low, so you would have 1 war machine.
Yeah, because really all you want to put on it is the +1 ballistics, the +1 to hit rune, basically.
Or one of the other fun, tricky ones, like the immolation rune or something like that. And
then leave it in a really simple place to get to.
Leave one war machine, which by the fluff is their oldest war machine and their simplest war machine, and one they use a lot. And rely on a lot and keep it cheap so that people can include a lot of them. But by having it 55 points, even just take 2, but you're still ballistic skill 3, you're only hitting...
So what's the points value to tempt you to take bolt throwers?
I would like to see them about 40 points.
I would say 45 would be fair.
If you could take 2 for the cost of a grudge thrower, then I think that would be good.
So I'm just looking at it from what if you took an engineer, right, a master engineer, the hero level.
Yeah, but then you've spent a bunch of points on a master engineer.
Well, just wait. So you've got your master engineer, and your rune of accuracy, which gives you the +1 to hit. So at that point, you're shooting at ballistic skill 5.
Okay,
so you're hitting on a 2-up.
But the machine itself cost you what? 80 points?
You're hitting
55 for a bolt thrower.
Plus what's for the
Plus
rune?
25 for the rune.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
it's costing you 80
points. And then 70 for the engineer. So
then you've just paid more for a bolt thrower than a high elf would, and you've got the same ballistic skill
And a
as
high
them
elf
now,
would
but
for
you
2.
haven't got the two
you've got plus
firing
1
modes.
ballistic skill, right? Because a high elf bolt thrower is only on ballistic skill 4.
Oh, you're saying if you've paid for the engineer as well, then you've taken the cost up to like 150 points.
Sure, but the engineer can be used across multiple machines, right? If you're not using the bolt thrower or the bolt thrower dies, you can still use it on your cannon, or you can choose depending on what the needs are. I'm not saying that this is an optimum choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're just trying to
I'm playing devil's advocate a
like
little bit.
how to make it work optimally.
Yeah, because I do find scatter shooting frustrating, right? So
Sure.
firing with the stone throwers
Yeah.
is actually like firing with ballistic skill 2.
Right.
So
I would argue, like, what are you going to use this bolt thrower for? Either like breaking through a bunch of high armor troops with the piercing ranks, or trying to hit big single monsters like demon princes to take their armor save away. And I would argue that in this book you've got machines that are way more suited to those two tasks anyway, in the organ gun and the cannon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
The only trying to think if there's any other possible use that you would have for a bolt thrower. It is significantly cheaper than a cannon.
Sure.
So I guess it fills that niche of I really need something that is a potential answer to a monster, but I don't
without investing.
I don't have 120 points to spend, so I'll throw something in for 55 points because I've got the points. And so you don't even worry about any upgrades or anything, and it's like having a grenade. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but I've got it just in case.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So that's the 3 specials.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the grudge thrower was just great, no matter what.
Well, okay.
You only like them because you've got some.
I've got 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got 3 bolt throwers too.
Okay. So let's go into the rare ones. These are a little more interesting and don't appear in the rulebook. So we've got the organ gun and we've got the flame cannon. So let's look at the organ gun first.
Yes, let's take a look at him.
So organ gun is a 30-inch range, strength 5, armor piercing, and you roll 2 artillery dice to find out how many shots are fired. So if you roll a misfire, all the shots are -1 to hit, and if you roll both misfires, then it explodes just like on the, or you roll a d6 on the black powder misfire chart.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it's ballistic skill shooting again, right? So the trick here is the good thing about it is here you're somewhere between, 4 and 20 shots with an average of 12.
Yeah.
So it's like having two repeater bolt throwers.
Sure. But you're hitting on 4s.
You're hitting on
And
4s.
strength 5. And at 30-inch range.
Strength 5.
Strength 5 armor piercing is pretty significant.
It's pretty powerful. And because it's such a powerful machine and it costs 120 points anyway, it seems, like a small sacrifice to pay the extra 25 points to get the rune that'll make it +1 to hit.
On
or
3s.
to do the re-roll on the
And
misfires.
one, we'll go into the runes later, I guess, but the rune that will help prevent those misfires as well. It seems like it's something that's really worth just tooling up. You're probably going to take one, and if you tool it up properly, it's going to be pretty devastating.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the thing for me that is significant about this is it is strength 5 armor piercing. The draw of the Iron Drakes is that they're strength 5, right?
Right.
And now they're 15 points a model, and so 10 of them, which is the minimum unit size, is going to cost you 150 points.
Mm-hmm.
So 120 points for an organ gun gives you another 30 points to potentially put runes on, and you're getting, I think, the equivalent sort of output, right? If you think about a unit of 10,
Sure.
You're getting on average 12 shots. It's fairly equivalent.
And 12 inches of extra range.
You get extra
which is
range,
huge.
yeah. The big difference is that it's a war machine, and so it's more vulnerable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Iron Drakes can
Yeah.
can
At
hang
least
in
defend
there in
themselves,
combat
yeah.
a
And fight
little
back
bit.
a
They
lot
can fight
better.
back.
Yeah,
But if it was a choice between the two, I think I'd take an organ gun.
I tend to agree.
Provides a very powerful static fire base.
Well,
And it actually is a choice between the two because they both come out of rare points.
yeah, and the fact that the organ gun can just pivot is gonna make it a lot more useful.
Yeah.
The Iron Drakes can be outmaneuvered.
Pivot, and you can pay your 25 points to get that +1 to hit, whereas Iron Drakes are always going to be using their ballistic skill of 3.
That's true. Okay, so lastly we have the flame cannon. So this is kind of, as Tom likes to point out, an inferior version of the magma
A vastly
cannon.
inferior version of the massively overpowered Chaos Dwarf magma cannon.
Let's think about it. There's flame, and then there's magma.
Yeah.
So,
shooting magma is obviously going to be a little better than shooting flame.
Okay, so how it works, it's a 12-inch range. You nominate a point within the 12 inches, and then you put down a marker where you nominated and extend a shot line from the flame cannon barrel, and then you drop down the flame template.
using the artillery die.
Yep.
An artillery
Then you
die
roll
for it.
the artillery dice and extend the line away, and that's where the flame.
So just to
template
compare
ends
this
up.
to a basic flamethrower from the basic rule book, you will just put that flame template at the nozzle of the gun, roll your artillery dice, that's how far it goes forward, and then anything underneath is hit. So that's obviously pretty crappy range.
Yeah.
So you've got an
Whereas
extra,
this, you put 12
extra
inches
12
on
inches.
top of that.
Yep.
But
yeah.
the magma cannon puts 24 inches on top of that. Otherwise, it's the same machine.
Yeah.
So
So it's 12 inches plus, some random number between 2 and 10.
sure. And then the flame template is 8 inches long, so you've got 12 inches plus that 8 inches plus whatever you roll in the dice. So
Yeah.
you're looking at hitting something about 24 inches away, really.
Which is not bad considering
not
that's
bad.
usually the distance that
Sure.
separates two armies.
And what you're really going to try and do is combine this with longer range things like cannons to get the opponent moving forward, and then once they've moved forward, hit them with the
Yep.
flame cannon. And you,
Yeah, or also with your miners, right?
Sure.
Pushing from behind.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go into that when we get into some of the tactics that we think
yeah.
we're going to use.
But
with
it
the
does, on its own, it might seem like the range isn't quite there, but kind of synergized with other war machines, you can.
Yeah.
I think
use
this
it
this has a place in. I'm not sure it has a place in an all-comers list. Although it will wreck infantry. It's strength 5. It does D3 wounds.
It does, so it's nice against monsters.
Very good against monstrous infantry. Especially good against trolls because it's flaming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And with strength 5, I think that's even pretty good against like chimeras and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you can get them in your fire arc.
Yeah.
From a fluff perspective, I would probably take in a fun list. I want to take 3 breath weapons.
Oh, yeah.
And then 2 of these guys,
And just do
and just
Flamey list.
and just do all flame.
Yeah.
Just
So you could take we'll get into this,
Fire Nation
the breath
attacks.
weapon stuff later.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kill them with fire list.
Yeah.
burn them out.
Yeah.
Napalm death. Yeah.
Continue.
Okay. So those are the 5 pieces of artillery. And that's kind of the artillery section. I think we'll move on now to the gyro section.
Yeah, the Air Force.
The Air Force.
Woohoo.
That was kind of nice to see. We had the Dwarven Air Force at Sparkle Party.
We did.
3.
Shout out for that.
That was awesome. It was a very beautiful
Yeah, Jared.
and small
It was incredible.
army.
Like, it looked so small.
It fitted
I
on
think
top
he
of the
had-
book.
Yeah, I think he had all Longbeards, claw,
Yeah.
and then just all flying stuff.
Yeah, 3 separate units of Longbeards.
Yeah.
At I think
Just like
12,
12 models or
12 models
something,
each or something
yeah.
like that with hand weapon and shield.
Yeah.
And then the 6 gyros, 2 bombers, and a cockatrice.
And a cockatrice, yeah.
Yeah.
the bound
So
monster.
It was and it fit, the whole army fit on a little 12 by 12 square.
Yeah.
Because it's all just those
And I think he
bases,
finished
but-
middle of the pack, didn't he?
Yeah, it's not. I
yeah,
wouldn't
and
say it's a terrible
unfortunately,
list,
I feel bad because he had to take the 3rd round, which was the scenario he was really wanting to play.
Oh.
That sucked.
But and the other thing of note is that he painted that whole army in a week, so that's pretty impressive because it was really
I find
well
that
painted.
very impressive.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty well painted. So,
Tom, our resident slow painter.
Yeah.
but otherwise, I'm not sure how he really did with his games. I think he had the best general took him out round 2. So his first game I think was kind of a middle finish for him.
So yeah, no, he must have done reasonable to be up against the Beastman player in round 2 because the Beastman guy finished.
No, it was the ogre guy.
The ogre guy.
Third best general.
Third best general. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, so let's go.
Let's talk about these guys.
Meanwhile, back in the dwarves.
Wait, so should we just before we move on? Let's mention that flame cannon rocks in at a cool 140 points.
140
with 50 points of runes.
50 points available for runes.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because the runic availability varies quite a lot across all the different units.
Weird that you can take so much on a bolt thrower.
Yeah.
Well, all the special ones are 100, and then the rare ones are 50. I think. Right?
Okay.
Is that how it is?
I think that's how it works.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So the gyros.
Okay.
Woohoo.
I think the models for these generate a
lot of debate.
You know,
lovers and haters.
People love them and hate them.
I love them.
Yeah, they're adorable.
Incredible. I mean, the bomber looks significantly better, I think, just because it has whole longer section and it looks like a kind of flying beast. The gyro is like a little flying egg, but it's cute and I like it.
I think they look way better on the field than they do in photographs.
Yeah.
When you see them, you know,
they don't look out of 90% of GW stuff.
It's true, but they don't look out of place, right? You know, when they're nicely painted, you know, I think GW tends to paint things that they want to have look really good in their magazine, you know, printed in a particular fashion, all that sort of stuff. Whereas, you know, when people actually paint them, I think they
tone it down.
They tone it down a little, and it feels dwarven. You know, it looks pretty darn good. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the actual rules for these suckers themselves. Okay, so the gyrocopters are in special. You can have up to 6 of them in your army.
Up to 6.
So that's an exception to the normal special rule. You can only have 3. It's a unique troop type, so none of your killing blow shenanigans.
Rocking in at 80 points,
which is very cheap. So
super cheap.
It has fly. It is relentless, which is it can march without ever having to test, which is huge for something that is going to play the role that the gyro is going to play, gyrocopter is going to play. It also has the ancestral grudge, obviously, because everything in the dwarf army does.
Yep.
It's got a 4-up armor save. And it's got a couple of special rules. Let's just go into those. One is dive bomb. So once per game, during the remaining move subphase, it can drop a bomb. The way that it works is it's kind of like the drop rocks from the pterodons. Anything that it's moved over, it can drop a strength 3 armor piercing bomb on. You roll an artillery dice, and that's how many hits were inflicted. So that's nice. There's no scatter or anything like that.
I see that rule as just kind of a nice little bonus of something to do once per game, but not really part of the gyro's core utility.
No, very much not. It's I mean, it's strength 3. It's not a huge deal.
Sure.
Even with the armor piercing. I mean, the armor piercing makes it that it could potentially be useful.
Yeah.
I think actually,
compare it to the steam gun that gets to use every round.
I take that back. One of the roles that I see the gyrocopter playing is clearing out chaff.
Sure.
And that artillery dice of strength 3 hits can clear out a chaff unit.
That's true, especially kind of chaff units that are single models.
Yeah.
You're going to pile all of those hits onto a single model.
Single models or low leadership like your Ungor Raiders or Skinks.
Yeah, that's true. But stuff like that, the steam gun is going to end up being the much better.
But then you get 2 in 1 turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if you can kill them with the moving, so you fly over, you drop the bomb, resolve that, and if you kill that unit, you can keep moving and put your cannon, the steam gun, where you need it. And then if you don't, then you know you can... Can you drop that mid-move and then keep moving? I figured you have to end your move and then pick one unit that you have moved over. Let's see.
It says once per game during the remaining move subphase.
It says select an unengaged enemy that the gyrocopter moved over in that turn. So I'd guess you have to end your movement and then pick a unit that you moved over to make that, although it is kind of unclear.
Yeah, it's kind of unclear, but...
presumably you can't do it when you charge?
No.
Right.
It happens in the remaining move subphase.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that just makes sense, although it's poorly worded.
I think there'll be an FAQ on that.
No, there are no FAQs anymore. Don't be silly.
They're back.
There hasn't been an FAQ since the Lizardman book came out. There's been no FAQs released.
But have they been needed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
We still don't know about Predatory Fighter.
Predatory Fighter is
Yeah,
a
there's
key one. There's a bunch.
All right, anyway.
Yeah, anyway, back on track here. Steam gun. Okay, so this is the main equipment. This is what you were talking about just a moment ago. Steam gun is the flame template. Strength 3 armor piercing. You just drop it down and boom.
So this, like, I'm going to take gyrocopters in every list just because there's so many goddamn elves out there with their super high damage output, kind of glass cannon infantry units, your sword masters, your executioners. Imagine what this guy's going to do to one of those units. You know, they're often used in fairly small units, kind of 20 models or something, wide, so they get a lot of attacks. This guy's going to land near them, drop that template over them, and hit every model pretty much.
Yep, and take out half of them.
So
yeah, I think that's
beautiful utility.
Very neat. It's important to note the gyrocopter is only 80 points.
Yeah.
Right. And then as a free upgrade, you can swap out your steam gun for a brimstone gun. So this is 18-inch range, strength 5. It's basically like a machine gun. Strength 5 armor piercing and dwarf crafted with flaming attacks, multiple shots D3 and quick to fire.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's ballistic skill shooting, so it's only going to be BS3. And because it's multiple shots, it's effectively BS2. So you're hitting on 5s.
Yeah, with an average of 2 shots.
With an average of, 2 shots.
I don't see why you'd take this.
I don't see why you would ever take this at all.
Over that flame template. I mean, it's going to be better at taking out, like, certain models, but for those things you already have a lot of other tools at your disposal.
Yeah.
Whereas that mobile flame template is something completely unique that adds a whole bunch of extra
value.
utility.
Yeah.
Well, the steam gun isn't flaming. Right?
It's not flaming.
So the
But that's good
brimstone
in some
gun does
cases.
give you
It gives you some flaming, sure.
some flaming, but you're
But
not
I'm
going to
whack
hit
some
with it
flaming
reliably.
rooms onto cannons when I want some.
Yeah,
some
I
flaming
think it's easy
shooting.
enough to get flaming from this
Yeah.
army without having to use that.
Yeah.
So
I just think you lose something that's incredibly useful and get something really situational.
I would agree. So that's the gyrocopter special. I know that if I was taking an army, I'm probably going to take at least 2.
Yeah.
And I know I could take 6, but I would probably take at most 4.
I think I would stick at 2 in most lists.
I think it depends. And it depends on what your list is
It does.
going to be doing. We'll get to that when we talk about the tactics.
But so other utilities for this guy. I mean, at 80 points, you can in a pinch use
Everything.
this as a redirector, chaff.
Is it
It's
redirector?
strength 4 2 attacks. It could take out another war machine.
You're looking at basically just 20 points more expensive than an eagle.
30 points.
30 points more than an eagle that you happily throw away as chaff.
Yeah.
But it has extra. Eagle is tough 4, right?
Yeah, so this is tough 5.
This has
Tough 5
extra
with
toughness.
the 4-up armor.
4-up armor, so it's
Yeah.
pretty durable for chaff.
Very durable.
And
Above and beyond that, if you've got 2 of them, you can even do the double fleet.
sure.
Because they're swift stride, because they're flyers.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be able to flee away from anything that charges into you.
Yep.
And then you'll easily rally on leadership 9.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it just combines a lot of nice uses into one little model.
Yeah, and it gives something very needed to the Dwarf army, which is the ability to help control the flow of other units.
Yeah. Just something for the movement phase.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. So, big fan of gyrocopters. Would not have a list without at least 2.
What about this upgrade? So we have 80 points base, and then, as we said, you can take up to 6, and up to half of those, rounding up, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, rounding up can be given Vanguard for 20 points.
Correct.
What are you thinking?
I wouldn't bother.
I wouldn't bother either.
Me either.
I mean,
but-
with 20 inches of movement.
20 inches of move that can never be
Yeah.
march blocked, because you're
And
relentless.
because dwarfs, you're going to be playing in a somewhat static play style anyway.
Yep.
You're not really going to know what you want to do moving-wise at the beginning of the game. You're playing a more counter-punchy army, so you want to see what your opponent does and then move.
I could see putting it.
answer.
I could see putting it on one gyrocopter, because then you can deploy that. You can deploy that very early on, right? And a typical strategy is to deploy your redirectors and stuff early,
first.
So that you can deploy it you can pretty much bang it down anywhere you like
This
on
is
the
a good
table,
idea, actually.
and then you can vanguard it wherever you think it's most needed.
So you're deploying it in your deployment zone, obviously, and then you're maybe not vanguarding it up the table towards your enemy, just repositioning it within your deployment zone where you want.
Exactly.
So I would agree that would be a pretty nice use for it.
But I would only do that if I felt, I've got 20-ish points left.
Sure.
I could throw a rune on something, or I could do this. If I didn't feel
right.
too strongly about the points I had left.
I
over.
imagine you'd put the points straight into a rune because there's just so many before you do that. But I think
there are.
So
I think if I was playing 6 of them, I might do 1 or 2 like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
If playing 6, but if I'm going to use 2 of these, and there's a chance that I'm just going to throw them away as chaff at some point in the game, then
Then you want
I'm
them as cheap
keeping
as
them
possible.
I would say most likely I'm taking 3.
Okay.
Because
ballsy.
Well, if I had the choice, I would always have 3 eagles in my wood elf army.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is even tougher than an eagle.
Yeah.
A redirector that can actually, take a hit and still be there is not to be sniffed at. And this thing can pump out damage on any chaff.
There were some for sure. There were some matchups where you're not going to get the most utility out of that.
Ogres
that
is an
steam
obvious
gun,
one.
Ogres, or even warriors of chaos, where everything's in armor.
Yeah,
or one-up empire lists.
And at that point, they're pure redirectors.
Exactly.
And they're still very good at that.
80 points.
It's just why I would want 3 of them, because I want to be able to double flee and pull things out of position and control the flow so that they don't get at my squishier stuff at the back. Okay, let's go on to gyro bombers.
Sure, the beefed up version.
I really like the look of these guys. I know we were talking about it earlier,
cool.
but
Super cool.
So it's kind of longer than the copter, and its whole middle section just has these big old bombs hanging off the side.
I really want to see somebody do a Zeppelin conversion. Making
Nice.
There were rumors that Forge World was doing a Zeppelin.
Well, that's because of the in the big rule book. There's a custom built Zeppelin, Dwarf Zeppelin.
No, I think these were legitimate.
Legitimate
Blackfire,
Forge World
for
ones?
the Blackfire passbook that never quite came out.
Oh yeah, because everybody started to work on Horus Heresy and stuff.
Well, I think they pulled everybody because they actually had the covers done and everything for that.
It seemed like pretty ready
and
to.
And then I think they
drop.
pulled everybody off of that onto Horus Heresy, and just kind of shelved that one, which is sad.
The cash cow
Plus,
of Horus Heresy.
I wouldn't be surprised if the main design studio was like, hey, we're about to redo the dwarves, why don't you let us do what we're going to do before you do that.
Yeah, that's entirely likely. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I do like the crazy stuff that the Forge World guys cook up.
Oh yeah, I hope they come up with just the stupidest rules for it that just make people want to cry, because it would just be so much fun. Just something like the War Mammoth just floating.
That's your aim in this hobby, to make people cry.
Yeah, ruin the hobby. All right, back to gyro bombers.
All right.
Okay, the real gyro bombers. They have the same profile as the gyrocopter,
right?
And they have fly, same 4-up armor save. So the difference here is they don't have the steam gun. They have a bombing run, which is similar to the dive bomb, except you can do it every turn.
Way more powerful.
Yeah, it's way more powerful, and it's not once per game. So in this case, you're dropping a
Grudge Buster bomb.
Yeah,
I love that name.
that is a great
such
name.
a good name.
It's the big template. There's not too many things drop the big template, which is always fun.
So again, it's any unit you moved over during the movement phase.
Yep, and it scatters like a stone thrower. And anything under the hull takes a strength 6 armor piercing hit.
With D3 wounds.
D3 wounds, and anything not under the hull takes a strength 3 armor piercing hit with D3 wounds.
No,
It's not with D3 wounds?
No.
Why not?
Because where they have strength 6 in parentheses, there where the D3 is in parentheses, that just applies to the strength 6.
Yeah, it's
thing.
the whole-
That's because
that's exactly
with
like
a
it is
stone
for a
thrower?
stone
Yeah,
thrower.
yeah.
Dang.
So that would be sweet.
Yeah, it
but,
would be. Okay, so it's just so
under the hole you got
under the hole. So you've got a chance of taking out something big,
Mm-hmm.
and other than that, you're doing the same as the gyrocopter,
except
except
it doesn't only hit once.
it bounces. So after you've resolved the damage on a 4-up,
Well, so we should mention that big template you dropped first time does scatter. Did we say that?
I
Oh,
did
you
say
said
that.
it scatters already.
Yeah, it
Okay, sure.
scatters, yeah.
So then, carry on.
So after you've resolved that, on a 4-up, it scatters D6 inches away, or it just remains in place. So on a 4-up, you get a secondary explosion, basically. And that's the small template. And then it's again the same thing. Strength 6 under the hull, and then strength 3 for everything.
So if you drop this on a unit of elves and you roll 2 hits in a row, then you've just nuked that entire unit.
Pretty much, yeah. You're pretty much guaranteed to have. You would have a quarter of the unit left.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun, unless you're the elf player, which I am. So it has its own misfire chart. Which is actually not too bad. It's only
not too bad. Yeah.
Only on a 1 that you're likely to just be destroyed, and even then, it's not guaranteed. So it's definitely better than most of the black powder.
So you just take
charts.
Instead of blowing up, you just take a strength 6 hit with the multiple wounds. D3.
Yeah.
You have 3 wounds, so
there's a 1 in
2 in 3 chance of that wounding you, and then a 2 in 3 chance of it killing you. After that.
Yeah, exactly. A 1 in 3 chance of it killing you after that. So that's the bombs. The bombs I think are pretty good. It also has a clatter gun,
which is really good.
Which is like the brimstone gun but better.
It is better. It's got a greater range of 24 inches. It's only strength 4, but it's multiple shots 4, so it's a fixed number of shots. An armor-piercing dwarf crafted quick to fire, so you can stand and shoot with it. Get 4 shots off against anything. You're only going to be hitting on 6s when you're standing and shooting with it, but
unlike that stupid brimstone gun, you haven't had to sacrifice anything to get this.
Exactly, it's just on there,
and you've still got your bombs.
So it's a freebie.
Yep.
Really, the bombs are what it's all about, being the gyro bomber, of course.
So this is, knowing you have that gun and the bombs, you can fly over some big low toughness infantry unit to drop your bombs, and then end your movement phase kind of facing something with better armor that you want to take some pot shots at with that clatter gun, and target 2 different units with 2 different weapons.
Yep. Now, this bad boy is obviously a unique troop type again. Comes out of your rare points, and only costs you 125 points.
Yeah. Which I think is great, because that makes it cheap enough to include one for fun.
Yeah, it does.
You could be like, I have a list that is well tailored, but I usually have about 150 points left to play with. What do I want? A bomber,
Well, the other nice thing about it is it's very much in the same point brackets as the war machines.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you may, for example, paint up all your troops units, and you're fairly inflexible on that, because that takes a long time to accumulate the models and so forth. But then it's like, I've got half a dozen, war machines and so forth I can choose from, one of which is my gyro bomber.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I like that part of it.
So I'm going to say, from my perspective, this is a good unit, but nowhere nearly as much of an auto take as a gyrocopter, or possibly 2 gyrocopters are. Because I think, the flame template coming out of the gyrocopter is still a very reliable way to take out low toughness stuff.
Yeah, more reliable than dropping these bombs.
Yeah, and it's cheap enough to use as a chaff unit too.
I agree. I think I would say that maybe a third of the armies you come up against are really going to suffer from the gyro bomber.
Yeah.
A third are going to be, on a par with the gyrocopter, and the other third are just going to kind of ignore it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a little more hit and miss in terms of its utility, and is not an auto include. But at the same time, I don't think it's a waste of points.
Definitely not a waste of points. Yeah. A lot of fun as well.
Yeah.
I also think it's gonna draw fire, and
it is. It's gonna take cannon shots,
and it's gonna people are gonna want to deal with it, partially because of its novelty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true. And, it's going to be the biggest model you have, which psychologically, people always look to the biggest model and think I need to get rid of that.
Yeah, and partially because you can drop it on the head of something you don't like.
Yeah.
And it can do a bunch of damage.
Yeah.
The risk, looking at it from the defensive player standpoint, the risk is high that even mathematically speaking, it might not necessarily kill what it's trying to kill, but can you take that risk?
Yeah.
If they do roll double hits.
Yeah.
It
It's not going to be fun.
Sure. So as an elf player, you got to deal with this.
Unless you're a Chaos Warrior, then you just won't care.
Yeah, but
I mean, with my Chaos
player,
Dwarfs,
absolutely.
I'm not going to worry about this thing too much. I can't imagine anything that it's really that dangerous against.
No.
Possibly that
goblins, but
yeah.
You don't take a ton of hobgoblins.
I don't really take hobgoblins. That strength 6 D3 might take out a bull centaur maybe. But
yeah.
Anyway, so like you said, kind of
actually
varying utility.
Where I think this would be good against your Chaos Dwarfs maybe not. I was thinking about against your War Machines, but I guess they are going to be tough 7 against the template.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Although
I would be more worried about just gyros popping in and charging the War Machines.
I would charge.
You'd charge this thing.
I would charge
the War Machines.
I'd charge this thing in because it's strength 4, tough 5.
But you can do that with a gyro anyway.
And 2 attacks. So and a 4-up armor against his War Machine.
Against his War Machine, that's true. You
might
just charge it in.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So a reasonable choice, but not an auto include for the Gyro Bomber.
Indeed.
All right.
So right?
we have covered absolutely everything.
Did we want to do
is special
characters really quick? I guess we don't have to spend a lot of time on these guys.
Yeah, let's go through the special characters and then we can move on to like the runic stuff.
The runes.
Okay, so Belagar obviously has
we
been.
know all about Belagar.
Has been all on here quite a bit.
Yeah. Regular listeners will have experienced the Belagar fan club.
Yep.
Up until last episode.
Yeah.
Or not so much of a fan club. So let's start with Thorgrim.
Yeah.
All right. So
the High King of the Dwarfs.
Yeah. So what's the points for Thorgrim? Tom's going
prohibitive. 650.
650. Okay.
Yep. Ridiculous.
So he comes on his special throne, which is like the shield bearer, but he gets an extra 4 wounds as a result.
Yeah. So he has 7 wounds total. Top 5.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, he's brutal.
He must be the general. And if he dies, everyone from all the friendly dwarfs get frenzy.
So his throne not only gives +4 wounds, but a 4-up ward as well.
Yeah.
And inspiring presence 18 inch.
Yep. And +2 to his armor save. Yeah. So he's got the armor of Skaldor, which is a 4-up armor save. So he's got a 2-up altogether. And a 2-up ward against killing blow, heroic killing blow, and multiple wounds. So he's very, very, very hard to kill.
Wait, say it again. 2-up against...
2-up ward against killing blow, heroic killing blow, and multiple wounds.
That is really nice, because I was saying, he can't take a lookout, sir, so he's going to be cannon fodder, but no. Nope.
2-up.
Yeah, I got 7 wounds. You have to shoot me 7 times with a cannon.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely solid.
Yeah. He's got the Axe of Grimnir, which is a magic weapon. Wow, well they're happy giving out this ASF rule to the to the dwarves here. So he gets ASF with the axe. Anything that's not wearing magic armor is wounded on a 2-up, regardless of toughness, and a 3-up if you're in magic armor.
Oh, so this is kind of like some of the runes you can take.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it does D6 multiple wounds if it's against a giant or chaos giant, so it's specifically for killing giants.
Yeah, so he inherited that axe from Grimnir, who was the first, not Slayer, but he had the first Slayer weapons. So,
interesting.
But he's only hitting at strength 4, so you're not going to get through anything with armor.
Well, that's interesting. I presume that
you use his strength, so
it's
going to be like the Slayer stuff. You'd be using his strength, but always
-1. Okay,
exactly. Yeah, so you're not going to get.
And
through.
so if he charges strength 5,
-2,
yeah.
Okay, he has a Dragon Crown of Karaz, which is a talisman that gives him immune to psych and stubborn, and any unity joins. And then the last one, and this is the
Grudges.
the kick in the butt, the Book of Grudges. So when you roll on the ancestral grudge table, so this is the one that figures out, is it just your general hates the other general,
Yep.
All characters hate all characters.
or your whole army? You get a +3 to roll on
Which
that.
means
table.
only on a roll of a 1 is your whole army not going to hate everybody
Yes,
else.
That's right.
Yeah, but keep going.
And if you roll 7 or more,
Yeah.
then Thorgrim and any unit he joins may re-roll failed to hit rolls in every round of close combat.
In other words, if you roll a natural 4 up on that roll.
Yes. So you can put him in a big unit of
hammers and just smashy
They're
time.
going to smash everything.
Hammer time.
But he's 650 points.
Yeah, so you can't even take him in a regular
You
tournament
can't take him in a
game.
2,500 point
No,
battle.
but
Yeah.
in, things that are that expensive generally come out when you have some kind of crazy mega battle going on.
He's
and
the
then
High King.
He's the High King.
He
of the
carries
Dwarves.
the Book of Grudges. I mean, he shouldn't be coming out in a normal battle, let's
No,
be
it's true.
honest.
Yeah.
In my
So
my
I just-
1,500 point list is led by the
Yeah, the High King.
the High King of the Dwarves.
I just finished reading the book from the Black Library on this guy, and it was, well, it's called Thorgrim. Even though it seems to be
It's about him and Belagar.
it's a
right?
lot about Belagar as well, and actually about Belagar's wife, which is kind of cool. I'm glad that they put the.
Does she have a beard?
She does not. They don't mention a beard, but she is pregnant.
Oh,
So-
beardling on the way.
Beardling on the way. So
A beardling in the
but-
oven.
Do dwarfs come out with beards? I mean, who knows?
who knows? They didn't touch on that.
They come out looking about 40 years old.
But in the book, like they really do make him just the stubbornest, most patient, and most
Yeah.
just kind of guy.
Ornery guy,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then he at the end he gets off his throne to smash face, and he does a good job with it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, next up, Ungrim Ironfist, the last Slayer King
This
of
guy,
Carrick-Cadron.
this guy is a beast.
He has
I
an
gotta say.
awesome haircut, I have to say that.
He has
Yeah.
a great haircut.
I think he's supposed to be by his fluff, he is the top dwarf combatant in all of
Sure.
dwarfdom. So he's supposed to be.
So the fluff of Carrick-Cadron is that I think a few generations above Ungrim Ironfist, one of the kings of Carrick-Cadron suffered some great defeat or something and had to take the Slayer Oath. But because he also had responsibilities to his kingdom that he had to rule,
Yeah.
he wasn't able to really pursue the Slayer lifestyle and just go and seek death, which
Yeah.
to a Slayer is even worse. It's even more unhonorable to have to live after taking the Slayer curse than to just go and seek your own death.
So they live constantly in shame.
In shame.
And he's been handed this shame.
And so it's
he
gone
was
down the
heir.
generations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And,
Yeah. So he's basically a
he's
Slayer.
inherited this great burden of having to.
Yeah, he's a Slayer Lord. Go ahead and
Yeah.
read the rules out there, Ricky.
He's got the normal stuff, ancestral grudge, but he is a demon slayer, which also means he's a dragon slayer, and he's a slayer. So he has those 3 rules. They stack, which means he does have death blow, which all slayers do. Relentless, resolute. He's unbreakable. So those are all basic slayer rules. He's the Slayer King, which means, well, the only units Ungrim can join are other slayers. He can be the general, which other slayers are not allowed to be. His inspiring presence works as normal when he is the general, so you can actually use an unbreakable leadership 10 general to lead the rest of your army if you so desire.
That's pretty cool.
And if you take him, a single Slayer unit can have a standard worth up to 100 points.
Which is pretty cool.
It is, because all of a sudden your Slayers, you can give them that...
4-up ward.
A
The
ward.
5-up ward against
5-up ward.
Shooting and a ward, and then stack a few
Oh no, you
runes
can't
of-
give them that, right? Because that's BSBs only. Well, we'll go into that
We'll
later.
go
That
into
is,
I
but
think
that
that's-
would... You could babysit with that one.
Sure, you can give them the stubborn bubble banner
Yeah,
and have
you know.
everybody stubborn.
Well,
So
they're
there's,
unbreak.
and you could also give him a stack of magic resistance and stuff like that. So, then he's got the Axe of Dargo, which is of course magic weapon in close combat. All his all his attacks are resolved at +2 strength and have killing blow.
So it's like a great weapon, but striking at initiative, which is 5 for him.
Yeah, so
which for a
when you
dwarf
stack
is
that with the
pretty-
Slayer
That's Elven
sweet.
initiative
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, and you stack it with his Slayer rules, which lets him always wound
Yeah.
on a 4-up.
So he's usually going to be
unless
wounding.
it's better.
Right, so he's usually going to be wounding stuff on like a 2-up, but then
Yeah.
if he gets into with a crazy tough
Yeah.
monster, then he's still wounding on a 4-up.
And
Yeah.
he's still got a -3 to armor save. Right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
of the strength 6.
Mhm.
That's
So
the
yeah,
key
so
point
he can
there.
go up against
is
those
key.
super high toughness guys and still scratch them.
Mm-hmm.
He actually has a dragon cloak, which gives him a 4-up save and
2-up against fire.
2-up against fire.
He's like
which
the
is-
ultimate Kadai Destroyer killer. Because he has that, the Demon Slayer rule means you have to reroll all successful ward saves
Yeah.
in base contact
He
with
would be
him.
good against the
Yeah.
Kadai.
He would annihilate it.
He probably would, yeah, because he would swing first, right? Initiative
Yeah.
5. The problem is he's still in it.
Simultaneous.
Simultaneous.
But then he's
2-up ward.
infantry, so you could thunder.
I could Thunderstomp him,
Yeah.
but he's got a 4-up
4-up
against
ward
that.
against Thunderstorm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's
He might-
2-6.
Yeah.
Um,
T6 is...
6, yeah.
Wow.
Well, so that's the next item. Magic Armor is the
Yeah,
Slayer
so
crown.
so he's the only Slayer with an armor save, which
Mm-hmm.
it adds +1 to his armor save. So really, he's only a 6-up armor save. But
Is that? I think
it
he has
also
some armor
adds,
on him anyway, right?
It also adds it up to +1 toughness.
He has
which is-
Gromrel armor, so
Oh,
then
does
that's
he?
+1 armor, so it's a
he's
3-up.
He's a 3-up.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah.
So he's a 3-up, 4-up, and 2-up against Flaming.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a beast.
He's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. And weapon skill 9, strength 4, tough 6, 3 wounds and 4 attacks, leadership 10.
Unbreakable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty nasty.
Coming in at 350 points, I would say
still
this is.
takeable.
I
Yeah.
would say this is one of the few special characters who is actually a genuinely really good choice.
Yeah, him and Belagar both are, I think, very fieldable. And
I think him even more so
Even
than
more
Belagar.
so.
Yeah.
the only problem with him is his model is horrendous.
The model is horrendous.
Yeah, it's
But there's a lot
it's a
of-
classic one. People who are old dwarf collectors, they're probably going to hate me for saying it's a horrendous model.
No,
but,
it is horrendous.
It is pretty awful.
But there's a lot of nice Slayer models out there.
Yeah,
There's,
there are.
Avatars of War have some incredible Slayer models, actually. Yeah. It's not... I don't know about horrendous, but it's not good. It's
not
very,
good.
very cartoony.
It is.
Yeah.
Very cartoony.
Looks like it belongs in Asterix and Obelix.
Yeah. But I would... If anybody wants to field Ongrim, I would check out the Avatars of War.
Or
Berserker Lord, who looks
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, and then Forge World also has a
Oh,
command
they do
group,
as well, yeah.
and their command group has a one of the Slayers in there that is does have like dragon scales on it and stuff. So I think with just a little bit of converting, you can make that guy look like a really convincing Ungrim. So
Yeah. So pretty cool choice there.
So your one problem with choosing Ungrim is that unless you're going to take Slayers, then he's on his own pretty much.
yeah,
But I think even just like walking around on his own, he'd be pretty sweet.
yeah, but could you imagine him in a big block of 50 Slayers,
Yeah, that would be.
tooled up to be like get another unit to. Like,
What about just in a little dot of Slayers, all of whom are Dragon Slayers
Or
with like
giant
different.
Slayers,
Yeah, all who are Dragon Slayers. No, Giant Slayers.
Giant
I mean,
Slayers,
the
yeah.
25-point
Yeah.
version,
So you
all
have
with
to-
different kind of
so
runic
you have to nominate
combos.
attacks.
Yeah, and they're all just it would be a cool
It'd be
unit.
fun.
It would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We got a few more to cover here.
All right.
So we'll skip over Belagar simply because we've talked about his special rules a whole
done him
bunch
to
on the
death.
podcast before.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you really want to know about him, go listen to all of our other podcasts. Thoric Ironbrow, the Master Rune Lord of Karak Azul. Tom, you want to talk us through this guy?
I haven't read his rules yet.
Oh,
Actually,
then I will
You
talk
go
us
for it
through.
while I scan.
Okay, so this guy is a Rune Lord, obviously. So he's got all the Rune Lord rules. The big difference is that he is magic resistance 3, not 2.
Ooh,
So yeah, that's pretty nifty. He's also unbreakable. Also nice. He has a special role. He has this little assistant guy, so he's an extra miniature called Craggy, and he doesn't do anything in game terms. Like the model doesn't do anything, but it's there anyway.
Yeah, he used to, but I think they just kind of simplified him.
So he's on an anvil. Thoric is on an anvil. So Craggy allows him to reroll a single dice on a failed attempt to cast one of the bound spells. Although if it rolls a 1, Craigie's done something wrong, and Thoric takes a strength 10 hit. And then Craigie dies. So that's a little bit fluffy on there. I'm not sure it's a great bonus in terms of being able to roll anything, but I guess if you're only throwing a couple of dice at something and you roll a 1 on one of them, the opportunity to maybe see if you can get it to a 4 or 5.
Yeah,
or
if it's something you really need to go off.
Yep.
But none of the rune spells are really something you need to go off.
Not terrible.
Right. We've already gone into the Anvil of Doom next time. So the fact that you're paying for the Anvil of Doom essentially in this guy's point cost is a big negative.
What's his point cost?
435.
Yeah.
Really
and a lot of that is going
expensive
on the
for
Anvil, which is not worth it.
So he gets +1 to cast on the Anvil spells, and he's got a magic weapon that gives no armor saves. And if this is pretty nice, and I wish this was available. If the victim takes 1 or more unsaved wounds, any magic armor, helmets, and shields that they had are destroyed and can't be used for the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he has magic armor that gives him a 1-up armor save.
Sure.
So yeah, he's tough 5. He's got 5 wounds.
Yeah, he's solid.
He's solid.
If I'm playing against this army, I'm just ignoring it all game and killing everything else.
Yeah. I don't think he's a great choice.
No.
Yeah, the magic that they do is so...
I'm not worried about it.
It just doesn't
and the fact
affect
that they've
the game.
dumped 500 points into this guy means the rest of the army is pretty easy to pick apart, probably.
Yep, exactly. Unfortunately, it's true. Yeah. Which is sad, because it would...
It is sad, because it would be pretty cool.
It's a really cool model, too. Like, they really do look good. So let's see, who else do we have in Lords?
In Lords, I think we're done.
We're done, yep.
But in the Heroes, we can go on to Grim Burlockson, who of course is the son of Burlock Damonson, the famous classic, dwarf engineer. This is his son, who's kind of a crazy inventor. Has he been kicked out of the engineers school?
No, he's not. No.
Close to it, probably.
He's definitely rogue.
He's kind of a maverick.
He's definitely mavericky, roguey thing.
He looks like a squat. For 40K.
He is an awesome model.
He is an awesome model. He's kind of steampunky.
Yeah,
has a lot of cog imagery of on his helmet and
his
then
rune,
this furnace on his back.
His rules are pretty good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's 165 points.
Yeah, and so you get all of the normal Master Engineer rules, which is I think the rule where you can kind of pick a war machine that will get a reroll that round or something.
Yeah.
Plus, he has the Master of Accuracy rule. So as long as he's not fleeing at the start of your shooting phase, you roll a d6, and on a 2-up, he's going to bestow your choice of the following 3 rules onto a unit within 3 inches. So you can give the artillery adjustment, which means that an artillery piece can use his ballistic skill for that turn.
And they can reroll 1 artillery dice.
And reroll 1 artillery dice. Now, his ballistic skill is a 5, which for the dwarfs is awesome.
Pretty good, yep.
We've been through some of the war machines. The main problem with them is their ballistic skill. So to be able to use the 5, pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And reroll an artillery dice. So this is great on a organ gun.
Yep.
Hitting on 3s and then being able to reroll something that'll give you a -1. Or he can give a unit of dwarf crossbows or handgunners extra range of 2d6 inches.
Also pretty good.
Pretty good if you're going to take a big kind of static fire block of quarrelers or handgunners. Or the final rule, he can give superior volley, which means models in the unit reroll miss to hit rolls.
Yeah, which is really good.
Pretty good too.
Yeah, that's good for the Grudge Bearer or the organ gun or the infantry
quarrelers or something.
Yep.
So in the first turn where stuff might be out of range still, you can increase the range, and then when stuff moves towards you into range, get a lot of hits off against them.
Yep.
So
I like it.
Pretty versatile.
Yeah, if I was to do a dwarven gun line, this guy would be auto include.
Yeah, if you've got a gun line. I mean, so this is
He's
only
points
3...
efficient for what he does, and
he's 165 points.
Yeah.
So this is a 3-inch bobble you can have this effect on. So maybe if you place him between like an organ gun on one side and a block of quarrelers on the other side, then
it's not bad.
You're going to use all these rules.
Yep.
You want to talk about his equipment?
Yeah. So he's got his own gun that he's built. Basically it's a double barrel pump action shotgun.
Yeah,
It's exactly what it looks like.
It is so good.
In the picture on the page, he's holding it kind of gangster style.
Shiny and brass. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
It's 18-inch range, strength 4, armor piercing, dwarf crafted, 2d3 multiple shots. It's nice.
And with his ballistic
Skill, you're actually going to hit people with that.
Yeah. And standing and shooting with that.
Yeah.
You're going to melt some face.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
And then he's got this special axe that he uses in close combat. So it's strength as user. He's strength 6.
Because he's cybernetic.
He's cybernetic. Or
Cyborg
steam enhanced. Yeah.
Steam Borg
Which is pretty awesome. And strength 6 armor piercing. So that's good. I mean, he's a can opener.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's pretty squishy in combat, though. He's not going to last long.
He is, and he's a hero level.
But
so that's normal.
chaff.
He's got Gromrel armor.
Yeah.
So he's a 4-up.
I mean, plus given like most of his utility is for shooting, like he's probably done his job. By the time he gets into combat, he's probably done his job already.
Yeah, exactly. But he does help protect the unit, like you said, against
Sure.
the vanguarding chaff or whatever else that might try to get in.
And
there.
at 165 points, it seems like a pretty nice deal, actually.
Yep. And the one last little rule, his axe has got
his weapon snapper.
on a 5-up, he'll destroy any magic weapon that if he gets a hit on someone. So that's just a neat little fluff piece in there. It's not really going to come into the game very much, but I like it.
Sure.
You could also choose to fight with, because he does have a brace of dwarf pistols, so you could fight with 3 attacks.
If you have a magic weapon, you have to use the magic weapon.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
So he's going to use the cog axe.
Then why does he have the brace of pistols?
Cog axe isn't magical.
It's not?
Nope.
So maybe he can choose to shoot with the brace of pistols instead of his grudge raker?
Oh yeah, it's not a magic item, it's just equipment.
It's just equipment. So
Interesting.
he
So
can
he can
choose.
choose the brace of pistols. So then you got 3 strength 6 attacks.
Nice.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
All right, I like.
Yeah, because he doesn't have a hand weapon, so he's not forced to use one thing or the other, right?
And the brace of pistols, are they strength as user?
Yes. I think so.
Yeah,
Nice.
brace of pistols is strength.
Yeah, strength as user.
Nice,
Yeah.
because if you don't want to shoot them, you just smack them with the
Extra.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty good.
Last special character, and probably the most well known,
Iconic. Absolutely iconic.
Joseph Bugman. All right, so Bugman, of course, the infamous brewer, makes the Bugman 6X and Troll Brew.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Warhammer World?
I have not. It did
You
not.
haven't?
It didn't exist when I worked at Workshop.
Oh yeah.
So
Because they have the Bugman's bar where they sell the
they
6X brew.
they built that after I stopped
we
working
should
there.
take
We
a
should go on a
pilgrimage.
pilgrimage sometime.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bugman, another hero level character, again 165 points. So Bugman, if I'm remembering my history right, Bugman's Rangers was one of the regiments of renown from the old days, like Scarlock's Wood Elf Archers and Ruglud's Armored Orcs.
From when there was the Dogs of War.
Yeah.
It was even before that.
From before the Dogs of War?
Well, the regiments of renown were very early box sets that Workshop brought out that had like somewhere between 15 and 20 metal models in them. And it was kind of a way for people to get a good go on their army back before they had any real plastic miniatures or anything like that. So Bugman, will we go through his rules here?
Yeah, they're nice actually.
Yep. So he's got the regular dwarf rules: Ancestral Grudge, Relentless, Resolute, and he's also got the Scout special rule. So let's get on to his actual special rules. So he has 1 unit of Rangers that can be upgraded to become Bugman's Rangers. So that's a nice hat tip to that regiment.
Yeah.
If you do that, then Bugman has to join the unit and can't leave it. The Rangers have weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 4, and strength 4.
So it's like +1 to all those stats.
+1, yeah, and they cost an additional 3 points per model. So these are basically like
Uber Rangers.
veteran Rangers that have been with him through thick and thin.
Like Longbeard Rangers, essentially.
Yeah, that's nice. I love that. I love the fluff of that. And you know what? That makes what is already a good unit even better.
So what do you think for 3 points? upgrade per model.
Rangers, how much are they a model?
14, I think.
14, but yeah, they're coming with a lot of stuff.
They come with the great weapon and the throwing
crossbow.
axes.
Yeah.
So throwing axes are strength as user, so now
goes
that's
up to
going up to
strength
strength 4, yeah.
I would totally do it. If I was taking Bugman, I would.
Oh yeah, if you're taking Bugman, you're definitely gonna.
Because there's no way I'm not taking Rangers. So, yeah, absolutely, I would do it.
Yeah.
All right, so fun shenanigans. What does he do? He's carrying his beer. All right, so the picture here, there's like this crazy dwarf guy with an axe. There's flames everywhere, and what's he got tucked under his arm? Barrel of ale.
I mean, the fluff is that Bugman's like a crazy mofo, right? He's just gone ballistic after some orcs have kind of...
Yeah, so he was off on trading some of his ale, and he came home to find his brewery burned to the ground by a bunch of goblins.
You didn't!
And his family was
kidnapped,
inside, so he lost most of his clan to it, and so now he's
just on a mad orc hunt, right?
Yeah, he wanders the world killing goblins.
Yeah.
And helping other dwarf holds scout them out and kill them. So yeah,
carrying his beer,
getting
people drunk.
So what does the liquid fortification rule do?
All right, so this is the special rule for his beer. As long as he's alive, you roll 2d6 at the start of each friendly turn, and have a look at this chart. If you roll a 2, it's bad brew. You get the flammable special rule. So I'm guessing that represents the fact that all you're doing is farting a lot of noxious fumes.
Probably burping and farting.
3 to 9, which is what you're going to roll most of the time. You get belligerent, so you become stubborn. Dwarves after beer being stubborn? Who knew?
Yeah, who would think?
And then 10 to 12, which is kind of the nice one, is leathered, so you get plus one toughness. All right.
So if we just imagine that this rule basically means stubborn, with a small chance of being plus one toughness, then you have this, unit of uber rangers who you've been able to deploy wherever you want on the battlefield, and now they're most of the time stubborn too.
Yep.
So you can use that for all the kind of tactical advantages you can imagine holding up particular parts of the field.
Yep. And the next special rule, I think, very easy to overlook, but is actually a really good one. Stout courage. They're immune to fear and terror, but they're not immune to psychology. So the nice part about that is if you need to flee with them, you can choose to.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. You don't ever have to take your terror test and be run off the board.
Correct.
So I like that a lot. And he's got a couple of magic items. Old Trustworthy. These are all beer-related stuff. Stout Courage, Liquid Fortification, etc. Old Trustworthy is his axe. It's armor piercing, plus one attack and plus one strength. So he's strength 5 and 4 attacks as a result.
For like a hero level character, he's kind of a beast in combat.
He's pretty good, yeah. Weapon skill 6. And then he's got his magic tankard. And this is pretty cool. At the start of any friendly turn, he or any model in the same unit can drink from it and recover D3 wounds. So
that's generally only going to be him, though, right?
Well, it depends. So
surely you're going to use your Bugman's Rangers to scout, and nobody else can scout.
So that assumes that you take him and put him in a unit of Rangers.
Right.
You could take him and put him in a unit of Hammers.
Sure.
Take him to put him in there with your Lord.
And your Lord's in there. And, if you're taking a Death Star, you're putting this guy in the Death Star.
It's true if you're going to take... Yeah.
If you take that... Oh, dang. It's a shame you can't go in with Slayers, because that would be awesome.
But if I know Bugman's in that unit and I've charged them, then he's going to be the first one I hit, and he has 2 wounds and no good saves of any description.
Yeah.
So he's probably going down pretty quickly.
Unless he's in the second rank.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You're right.
So you have to kind of choose his utility. If you're going to make use of the Bugman's Rangers, then you're not going to get use out of this tankard.
And I personally feel that that's the primary utility.
I would say
him,
so too.
Is to put him in the Rangers, make them Longbeard Rangers, and.
I mean, it's still nice for him if you have him on the corner of the unit, so he's not going to take too much damage. Maybe he only takes 1 wound per turn, and you can just keep, clocking him back up to 2 wounds. So it kind of makes up a little bit for the lack of any good save on him.
Yeah. So big fan of the hero level special characters.
Yes.
I think they're pointed right.
And
they're fluffy and fun. Yeah.
And we like
I like them both, and my pick of the lords is Ungrim.
And we like Belagar
We
reasonably.
like Belagar, yeah.
I do like Belagar. I'd include him in a list.
Yeah. I think, Belagar is kind of, he is more like the dare I say it, average
Sure.
dwarf king that you might take
My own-
at
yeah.
lord level.
My issue with Belagar would be that I can build a much better dwarf lord myself
Correct.
for
Yeah.
the same points, whereas
Correct.
Ungrim offers something kind of a bit unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. All right. Those were the special characters. All right. So on to the magic items that dwarves can have. So, different from the previous book, they actually have some pre-constructed magic items. I don't think they had any in the last book.
They did not.
And really, these are, they fit in with the flavor of all the rest of them. But they've got a half dozen, I guess, single magic items that you can take instead of taking runic items.
Yep.
And these are called ancestral heirlooms. So let's run through those pretty quickly. There's the Hammer of Karak Draj, which is 65 points. I don't know about this one. You get +3 initiative, and if whatever takes a wound has its initiative reduced to 1 until the end of the close combat phase.
Nope.
I
Not
think
for
that is a
65 points.
great big waste of points. That
For sure.
Yeah.
feels like a 10-point.
Well, honestly,
magic
most of these ancestral heirlooms, compared to the stuff you can build yourself with runes,
Yeah,
I'm not very
there's-
impressed
I've
with.
seen.
Yep.
So let's just go through.
Well,
it.
I'll go through it.
I can't even begin to think of how that's really useful.
No.
Yeah.
Not.
No. No.
I mean, fine, but 65 points, nope.
I don't get it. All right, moving on. Red Axe of Karak, 8 peaks, 50 points. So, as you might expect, this has benefits against orcs, goblins, and skaven. So you get to reroll to hit and to wound rolls, and you cause terror against models from those books. So, kind of a fluffy choice. At 50 points, it feels again like a whole lot of overkill for what you get. Or
Yeah.
too many points for what you're actually getting.
Once my dwarves are done, though, we're going to play out a bunch of Karak 8 Peaks battles with
Oh,
my
yeah.
with my goblins and my Skaven.
Oh
And
yeah.
then the red axe will come
I
out.
expect this to be in every list.
All right. So, if we're gonna do that, who gets to be what?
So this-
I think we'll roll.
Take
Yeah.
turns. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Oh, that would be
This
epic.
item will be going up against the dwarf mangler.
I want to have a three.
Three-way triumph and treachery.
Yeah, it's going to be basically 3 game, triumph and treachery type games, and then I also want to do 3 different linked scenarios.
That'd be great.
That'd
Yeah,
be
we should
sweet.
do that and maybe report a bit back on it in
Yeah.
the podcast. All right.
For sure.
Okay. So that's a very fluffy item because we got excited about it from a fluff standpoint.
Yeah.
But
Karak 8 Peaks is just a really fun concept.
it
to
is.
think
Yeah.
about.
It is.
But in an all-comers list,
Nah,
you're
not-
definitely not
not
going to
ever.
take it.
Not really.
Definitely never.
Okay, so the magnificent armor of Borak Beetlebrow has a fantastic name. 60 points. Gives you a 2-up armor save and a 3-up ward against all attacks of strength 6 or higher.
Pretty good, actually.
60
you think?
points. I think it's okay.
I don't think it's that good.
I mean,
I
looking
mean-
at it in isolation, it's not terrible.
You're definitely going to want to have a ward save on your character. If
Yeah.
you choose this item to give him the ward save, you've got a 3-up against strength 6 or higher.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff you want ward saves against is things that don't even have a strength value at all, like death magic and characteristic tests
Yeah.
and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
But I still think it's maybe a little at 50 points. I think it would be really good. But for now, it's not bad.
It's
no, it's not terrible.
it's not terrible.
But you can
no.
build. You can build better.
You can build better.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom, you're giving the game away. All right. Silverhorn of Vengeance, a 45-point enchanted item, 1 use only. Use at the start of any friendly turn. Its wielder and every friendly unit within 6 inches has the devastating charge special rule until the start of their following turn, and causes fear in all models from high elves, dark elves, or wood elves for the rest of the game. 45 points. I think that's a waste of points.
Well, yeah.
Devastating Charge gives you +1 attack on the turn you charge. So it's not terrible, but, fear against elves, elves don't care about fear. I mean, they're leadership 9. It's very unlikely for them to fail a fear test. Or leadership 8, technically, but yeah. Again,
Generally, anything that's like specific against particular armies is not going to be worth it.
Yeah, so that part is purely fluff. The Devastating Charge rule, it's once per game you can do it, and it's only units within 6 inches for +1 attack. So it's only
the
gonna be
situations where that's going to be pretty devastating.
There's times where
but it's a 45 point
yeah,
item.
sure. But
I mean, if you design an entire battle line with runes of slowness everywhere, so people might try and charge you and then fall short, and then you get to like have this massive counter charge against them, then it could come in pretty great.
Yeah, I could see it.
Especially if one of these units is a horde formation of hammers, 3 attacks each in the front rank,
50 attacks total.
Yeah, you can. There's not much that could stand up against that, especially because they got the charge. Their strength 7.
Sure.
So
that's very true. I mean, the question is though, is that just win more, right? If you get a counter charge with a horde of hammers, 40 attacks or 50 attacks doesn't really matter. You're probably going to delete whatever it is you're hitting.
Well, yeah.
Not always.
But they still strike last. So what this does is you're going to lose some of those hammers. What this does is it makes the ones that are left more efficient.
That's true.
So I think it
has its place.
It does have its place, but like you said, it's expensive for a one-use item.
Yeah.
But the thing is you usually know if you're going to make that charge.
Sure. So you do get to wait to use it to a time when it is going to come into effect.
Yep.
But there might be times when it's not.
And then you'll roll double ones and fail your charge, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. Fiery Ring of Thori. Every time I see anything that says,
I like this one. Yeah.
This one is.
I
awesome.
do like this one.
Yeah.
Anytime I see something that says fiery ring, all I can think of is eating too hot a curry. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so this is nice. It gives you a strength 4 breath weapon with flaming attack special roll. 35 points. That's awesome. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, this on say a runesmith with a 1 higher initiative on his weapon pops this breath weapon in combat, strength 4, takes away anything with regen, and then the rest of the unit can unload.
Or even you don't have to use it in combat. If you have a kind of defensive unit with shields, have the shield wall thing.
Yeah.
Nothing stop you just marching right up in your opponent's face, blowing this breath weapon across the unit,
maximize
and then just
that template.
Accept the charge with your 5 up ward after that.
Yeah.
Especially if you have the character with it kind of on the corner and they can diagonal across that unit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this again has a lot of the same utility as what we were talking about with the gyrocopter breath weapon. I mean, it's a little bit better. And I like it a lot. There's a lot of situations where you would use it. And
it adds a little bit more utility to whatever unit it's in. It just gives them a slightly different role.
And it can be taken by any level character that you've got. So I look at it and think, obviously being a Wood Elf player, Hail of Doom Arrow is something I take all the time. This seems to be one of those things where it's like, why would I not take this? There has to be a reason not to take it rather than looking for a reason to take it.
It's a nice item for a runesmith, given that on a runesmith, you get this big 75-point rune or magic item allowance.
Yeah.
You're going to want, generally, like your BSB or your general, there's more important runes to get in there, kind of fighty and defensive ones, but for a runesmith,
I feel like it's one of those things that if you put it in your list, you are going to use it every game. There's going to be games where you roll snake eyes for your number of hits. Sure, that's going to happen. But, getting 7 strength 4 hits is not... or the template.
Or the template, which gets you like 15.
Yeah. But I do like the synergy you mentioned with the initiative rune.
Yeah.
Because breath weapons are at initiative order, so...
Yeah, so get that initiative off first. That's something I'm playing with now in my builds, is getting my runesmiths to hit at a higher initiative with flaming for those regens.
That's smart. Yep.
So the rest of the unit can actually get something through.
Okay. And the last heirloom, the Banner of Lost Holds, which is a 100-point magic standard. You can re-roll. The unit that carries it can re-roll failed to wound rolls in close combat.
Pretty.
I think it's very pricey for
It's
what it
very
does.
pricey for what it does. It's very fluffy if you take Ungrim Iron Fist with
Yeah.
his big, huge horde of Slayers.
Slayers, yeah.
Put
Yeah.
this as their 100-point banner,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden
You're going to rip through things.
you're gonna rip through anything that touches it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this has to go on a BSB, right?
Yep.
It's either
Yeah.
that unit or a BSB.
Yeah,
Those
BSBs
the
are
two options.
unlimited number.
Sure.
But
Put this on a BSB and then he is squishy as hell.
Yeah.
yeah, you can't get that.
So again,
Boy.
situational. So
Yeah.
Won't see it into many lists.
no.
I don't think you'll see it in really any list at that point cost. Yeah.
So out of all of these ancestral heirlooms, I think the fiery ring, fiery ring
Yeah.
is the one we'll see on
the
the
Bombay
tabletop.
booty.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's move on to runic items. So the runic magic is what makes dwarfs. So
I'm so glad they kept it too.
yeah.
And
so
it's been with dwarfs for
since the
right?
4th edition book,
and it's
from
a
what I can
truly
remember.
unique thing, the ability to
It is.
create your own customized magic items.
Yeah, so dwarfs don't get access to magic items from the common magic items in the rulebook. And instead, they get to build their own custom items using these magic runes. This is why they can't cast spells. Instead, they bind the winds of magic into runes that are cast onto items when they forge them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole bunch of different types of runes. There's runes for weapons, runes for armor,
Sure.
and so forth.
So you can basically build yourself a magic weapon, some magic armor, or a magical talisman.
Yep, and there's
or
also
a banner.
magic
that you
banners, and you can also put runes on your war machines.
Sure.
But there are rules of the runes that have changed since the last book, and I think changed for the better. It's only a minor change, I think, but these allow you to customize without creating a boring experience.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, I see what you're getting at. Yeah.
Right. So every I'll just go through the rules real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So the first rule is the rule of 3, which means you can't have more than 3 runes on an item.
Yeah. So, I think these rules have stayed the same.
These have stayed the
Yeah.
same, but at the end I'll mention
How
what's
they-
changed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. The second rule is the rule of form, which just says what things can be inscribed on what.
Yeah.
And that just makes sense.
Yeah.
The third rule is the rule of pride, which says that no more than one item can carry the same combination of runes.
Mm-hmm.
So
So it's basically just like saying with magic items that you can only include any given magic item in your army once
right.
because they're unique. This is saying like
That's
each
right.
item has to have its own unique combination of runes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it doesn't restrict how many times you actually use an individual rune throughout the army.
Right. That's the rule of pride.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the jealous runes thing, which is that master runes cannot be used more than once per army. So no more than one master rune can be inscribed on an item. So master runes are the really kick-ass runes, and we'll go into some of those. And
Generally so expensive that you couldn't fit more than one on an item anyway.
anyway, but just in
Yeah,
case
the
you
rules
wanted
there,
to,
in case
yeah,
you wanted to try.
yeah. And so and then the final rule around there is that of the non-master runes, some of them you can inscribe more than once on the item to get a flavorful benefit.
Sure. So this is the thing that's
better.
really changed. So previously you inscribe the same rune twice and it just stacks the ability, like the +1 strength rune. If you have it twice, you get +2 strength. The spell breaking rune, you just inscribe it a couple of times and you have 2 dispel scrolls essentially.
Yep.
Whereas now it's changed so that you get, a given ability for having it once, and then instead of it just stacking again, you'll get a slightly different ability added on when you have a second one in that rune. So that's what's changed, and I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It
think
prevents
it's
the
great.
stupid scroll spam
Yeah.
that you would see
Yeah,
before.
where you could have 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And what's tricky about that is that the runes, especially like the second inscription and third inscription, it's not a linear progression in terms of points. But the benefits that you get from like having the 3 runes of something on an individual item are sometimes, really powerful. But then you're basically committing to only having that on your item. So the variety of magic items you can take with the dwarf army is huge.
We haven't math hammered it.
No, but it's large.
The number of different items you could have is large.
Very, very large.
Yes.
Thousands, right?
It's thousands,
it
I
must be in
would
the
say.
thousands,
Yeah, just
of different items.
glancing at it. Yeah. Pardon me.
Not all of them would be useful, but you could take them.
Yeah.
Most would be very unuseful, actually.
But what's really cool is this is where you make up for lack of spells. I think is the variety of things that you can take.
Sure.
And I think this is actually a tactical advantage for dwarfs. Regardless of the effects that these runes can have, the lack of knowledge from their opponents, it's like,
it can be very
you can do that, you can do that.
Very unexpected abilities coming from unexpected quarters.
Absolutely, and I think that's going to be something that as a dwarf player you're going to want to
because people
hammer
are
home.
going to see that dwarf lord, but they're never going to know what it does.
Yeah.
They could get there and be like, oh, it's a tank lord, I can't scratch it, or they can get there and it's just gonna meat grind you, and you just
exactly.
Yeah.
So why don't we, instead of like going through every single rune, because there's a lot, we could just pick out some of our favorites under each heading and talk about some interesting combinations under each heading.
Sounds good.
So starting off with the weapon runes.
Yeah, let's jump right into the biggest category. Why not? I mean, this is all about Warhammer. It's about fighting.
Yeah, it's about
right?
fighting and killing.
Let's go into the weapon runes.
Let's do it.
All right, so this has the largest number of runes, and of course, then that means it has the largest number of master runes.
Yes.
All right.
There's a lot of master runes.
There's a lot of master runes. Anybody want to pick out a favorite?
Rune of Cleaving, I love.
That's in the regular runes, right?
Let's go for the master.
We're going master.
So my favorite,
sorry.
my favorite of the master runes has to be partly for the name and mostly for the ability. The master rune of Snorri Spanglehelm.
Yeah.
It's only 25 points.
Yeah, the point cost makes it
low
awesome
points
too.
cost, and you always hit on a 2-up. So great.
Yeah,
that is
why
great.
not? It's great. I mean, there's other ones in here that'll give you ASF and stuff for rerolls and whatever, but you don't need that if you're already hitting on a 2-up.
Yeah.
Just don't throw ones.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's kind of nice. It's nice because, if you think about the Nurgle Demon Prince that we always kind of hold up as the ultimate combat guy, he pays 25 points for his sword of striking, which then allows him to have a 2-up to hit things. So,
well, and you also consider that... Sorry, I just totally brain farted on what I was going to say. But the person using it, never mind. I can't remember.
And this is just always, no matter like if you've had modifiers to your weapon skill through, magic,
nerdliness.
Yeah. So
or any of those miasma type effects.
Miasma.
I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
When you said always strikes first to get the rerolls, this is probably going on a character.
Yeah.
Which 2/3 of the time has hatred against.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they're
right.
at least against the other characters. So, there's a good chance you're going to have a reroll anyways.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
and another thing, obviously, this is on a runic weapon, maybe on your lord, that's going to have a whole crap ton of other abilities through other runes that, make it stronger and things like that. So having something that helps you get the hits through to start with so that the other runes can then take effect is really powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, I will call out my favorite one just because I'm such a Thor fanboy.
Go on then.
The Master Rune of Flight.
Yeah, that one's so fun.
Yeah.
And this has nice synergies too.
Yeah.
There's some really cool things you can do with it.
Yeah, for sure. So you pop this on your hammer because it has to be a hammer. No, it doesn't have to be, but in my world it has to be.
By the hammer of Thor.
That's right. You throw it. It's got a range of 12 inches. It always hits on a 2-up. And then you roll the wound as if the target had suffered a hit from the weapon in close combat. Any additional runes on the weapon will also take effect.
Yeah.
And then it flies back again. So
So after we
I
talk
love
about
that.
these, we can talk about some synergies for that one in particular.
Yeah.
There's a couple of nice ones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
absolutely there
tricksy
are.
things to do with that guy.
So the really expensive master runes in there, there's one that'll get you always wound on a 2-up or always wound something in magic armor on a 3-up. So it's kind of like that ability that Thorgrim
Mm-hmm.
has anyway. And kind of, the always wounding on a 2-up is nice, but of course it's making no modifications to armor saves other than what your strength is anyway. So for 75 points, that one seems like a bit of a stinker to me.
Yeah. And there's a few of the other master. So I'll run through them super quick. There's one that gives D6 multiple wounds for 60 points, no armor saves for 50 points, destroys magic weapons on a 2-up for 50 points, always wounds dragons on a 2-up and does multiple wounds 2 for 50 points, and gives you ASF for 25 points. I think actually the cheaper master runes
are the better.
are superior to the
Snorri
to the expensive.
Spanglehelm I'm taking every game.
I from a pure
Yeah.
fluff standpoint, I got to take the master
take-
rune of flight.
Yeah.
I freaking love that.
You can imagine the guy on his shield bearers for a nice vantage point, and he's just hurling it
That's
further.
Yep.
This one's for me, father. Yeah.
I like it.
All right.
right.
So let's go into some of their regular runes.
Some of the regular ones. What do you have any favorites you want to pick out?
There's a bunch here, and so many of them. You can either engrave the full 3 times or even just
Sure.
twice.
Is it Rune of Might? Sorry, this iPad edition. Yeah, Rune of Might. That's probably my favorite from this section.
Me too. I'm gonna
Yeah, so Rune of Might doubles
just one rune,
strength
yeah.
against foes of toughness 5 or higher in close combat, with just the one, and that's 25 points. And if you engrave it twice for 60 points, it does multiple wounds D3 against foes of toughness 5 or higher.
for 60. I think just one
one.
Rune of Might is
Yeah.
really nice, and it's one of those kind of tricksy ones that we were just talking about that people might not be
yeah.
expecting. Put this lord in a unit of stuff that's only like strength 4 in general, and then watch people fly demon princes into that unit who they think can't be hurt by the, if you just have some longbeards or something strength 4, they're going to think they're demon princes.
Or even just warriors in a bus.
Yeah, stuff like that. And all of a sudden you're just strength 8 against this dude, and you're just busting him open.
Well, I love it on the Master Rune of Flight as well.
Yeah,
Here's the
that's
thing
one
you
of the
gotta
synergies I'm thinking about.
remember
That makes
is,
it like a little cannon.
and it's also you can stand and shoot with it,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, I'll stand and shoot with this strength 8 hammer. Anyway, sorry, I might have got carried away there.
My strength 8 hammer.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's one of. I think that's a great one. Just
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even in a unit of great weapon stuff, because they can deal with everything that's like toughness 5 or lower. And then something really solid comes into the unit, like a steam tank or something that might cause you problems, and you have this guy to deal with it.
Yeah. Another one that I really think I'm going to use all the time is just the Rune of Speed. 5 points for +1 initiative for the wielder.
Yeah. 5 points to take a dwarf lord up to initiative 5.
Yeah, or
Really
to
nice.
take your runesmiths to above your
Right,
unit.
this is what you were talking about earlier.
And then this is one that does stack like all runes used to. Like, so you
Yep.
can add up to 3, and each one's going to give you another
just a
+1
straight
initiative.
+1. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. For
Yep.
5 points each. Pretty
So let's
good.
talk about the Rune of Fire briefly.
Oh, such a good one.
10 points gives you flaming attacks is the single rune. Double rune is really nice as well. For 50 points, you get the flaming attack special rule, and you get the strength 4 breath weapon. So it's like you get the fiery ring of Snorri.
But it's
fiery
worth
ring of
pointing out that you pay
Thori.
40 points to have that
Yes.
instead of the 35 for the ring. So if you're going to have it in the list, if you want to be able
If
to
you're
have
just after
2
a
of them,
breath weapon.
if you're after 2 breath weapons in the army, you do the Rune of Fire with 2 stacks, and the ring with 1 rune, 1 Rune of Fire or not even. So it's more economical if you're trying to get that breath weapon to take the ring. But if you want to get this guy to have flaming attacks in combat, then
Yep.
yeah.
And 3 runes of fire seems completely pointless.
Well, 3 runes of fire cost you 125, and all it does is give you multiple wounds D3.
on the breath weapon.
Yes, on the breath weapon.
On the
If
breath
you know you're
weapon.
fighting ogres,
If you
take
know who
it.
you're fighting,
Yeah.
sure. But if you can tailor your list, then you're always going to come
Ogres
up with the
and
right
trolls,
combination.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just think that is just brutal.
Sure.
'Cause,
I mean, that's the other great thing about this set of runic weapons. If you think about it from a campaign standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're playing a different army each week, and you know who you're playing against.
Right.
You are going to tailor your list
You
against
can
it,
tailor the
and-
crap out this stuff. I generally like to think
You
of
will
stuff
kick
from a
butt.
kind of all-comers list
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah,
And in
absolutely,
that
because that's
list,
the normal.
at that list, you stop at 2 runes of fire, but because, you know, a lot of the time you're going to end up in combat with units of toughness 3 infantry, and then you don't need the multiple
Yeah,
runes,
but-
and you're killing them all anyway.
This rune of fire, 3 stacks on the charge. Pop your breath weapon. 2d6 strength 5. Because
Strength 4, right?
well, it's +1 strength on the charge, isn't it?
But this is
Was
only to your strength
Only to your-
characteristic.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
but it
Not
wouldn't be to the
it wouldn't be to
okay.
the breath weapon.
Otherwise, that'd be
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
nice.
goodbye ogres.
Sure.
Goodbye any monstrous infantry, really.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so I'm going to run through the regular runes very quickly,
All right.
just like I did with the
Yeah.
master runes. You have a rune of demon slaying you can take up to 3 times, and that gives you basically more killiness against demons. Rune of fire we just covered. Rune of fury, which gives you extra attacks, ends up giving you frenzy and rerolls. The rune of dismay, which makes you cause fear, and then terror, and then terror with a leadership penalty. Rune of cleaving, which gives you armor piercing, +1 strength, and the killing blow. That's the 3 levels of it.
So I guess my problems with the two here, the fury one and the cleaving one, is that you end up paying more for certain abilities than kind of basic rulebook items do.
Right.
For example, for your extra attack, you're paying 25 points, whereas Sword of Battle is only 20.
Yeah.
And in the Runes of Cleaving, you know, your first 10 gets you armor piercing, then you pay 25 on top of that for +1 strength, whereas Sword of Might in the regular rulebook is only 20, right?
Yeah,
Or is
that's
that
right.
20? Only 20.
That's right.
So
yeah.
you're paying a little more than you should, I think. For these
I agree,
things.
and I think those are less likely to be taken.
Yeah.
The Rune of Might we talked about, the strength doubling. Rune of Striking gives you +1 weapon skill, reroll to fail to hit, and then weapon skill 10.
That's I've got Snorri Spangle Helm. I don't need any of that.
Yeah. Well,
weapon skill 10 is nice defensively, but
and here's the other thing though: if you want to have 2 combat characters, you can only take Master Rune of Snorri Spangle Helm once in the army. The Grudge Rune, which gives you +1 to hit and reroll failed to wound rolls against one particular model in the opponent's army. Rune of Parrying, which enemy models get -1 to hit you.
Pretty good one, I think.
That's not bad for 25 points.
It's a good defensive build one.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And then the Rune of Speed that we talked about, +1 initiative for 5 points. So yeah, lots of versatility, and that's just the weapons.
Sure. So do you have a favorite combo on these weapons?
Yeah,
for a nice cost-effective kind of thing.
Yeah, for me,
flight.
Yeah, it's the Rune of Flight, the Rune of Might, and probably the Rune of Striking. Or Rune of Speed, something that to get that minor bonus, so it's not too expensive. Right at that point, that's only 50, 60 points, 55, 60 points.
For me, my nice cost efficient item, I'm taking I go Snorri Spangle Helm, 1 Rune of Might, and 1 of Speed, and that comes in at 55 total. Always hitting on a 2-up, the double strength against toughness 5 and initiative 5.
Yeah,
seems pretty nice.
Yep.
Yeah,
all right.
Mine's the same as Tom's, except I don't think I have the speed on mine.
Yeah, and I think the combination of speed, might, fire.
Speed and fire is a nice combo that I hadn't actually thought about until you mentioned it.
Yeah, and I also think, or potentially swiftness and fire, to get the ASF. Obviously, also swiftness and speed are good if you're. Potentially up against anything that's initiative 3. Like if you're fighting against regular
those
troops,
rerolls.
you can get some rerolls. So there's a lot of I think potential combos at a pretty cheap points level. Something to talk about a little bit. Giant Slayers can take 25 points, and Champions can take 25 points of runic items.
So you're looking for nice cheap ones.
Cheap ones.
Different cheap combinations you can dot around the unit.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can do and things like the hammers when you give them the runes. So runic weapons can only be on a hand weapon. So you can't ever put a rune on a great weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a model like a champion that has a great weapon like the hammers, you give them a runic weapon, all of a sudden they're fighting at initiative order instead of always strikes last. So that's again where you can give them a rune of fire. And they are hitting with 3 attacks because they actually have more attacks than the runesmith, and they have a better chance of getting that wound through to negate regen.
So how many points can the hammer champion take? 25?
25, yeah.
Ooh.
So you can
put 2 speed, 1 fire.
Yep.
Yeah, or rune of fire, rune of cleaving, rune of speed.
Yeah.
Right. So you can be a little bit more assured of getting that flaming thing through.
Yep.
If they've got an armor save, So, yeah, there's lots of possibilities. Lots of possibilities.
I really like the thought of designing just a fun little unit of giant slayers, all with different stuff.
Well,
With
here's the
every
thing.
possible combo you can get in there.
If you think about the fun of the game in the metagame, the major thing in the metagame is building your list, right? This has given you an entirely separate and secondary list building mechanic. So you get to spend a ton of time just thinking about, if I combine this set of weapon runes with, this set of armor runes, I get this cool effect. And, I think there's a depth there that I don't think you can really explore without a
which
quite
is
a
why
range
I'm
of
sure
games.
all 3 of us have had like crazy fun doing our some sample lists
Well,
that we're going to talk about at the end.
And there's a variety within that. Like you don't have just weapon runes that just do something in combat. You have ones that give you a breath weapon.
Too.
You have ones that give you a shooting attack. I mean, that is stuff that you can't normally get off of a magical weapon, and so it does give you something like, oh man, I'm getting tired of these dwarves. Why don't I do something that shoots every time?
I think an interesting sign is that we have an elf player here who's super excited about dwarfs.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the combos. All right, so that's weapon runes. Let's go on to armor runes.
Yeah, there's some great stuff over here too.
Okay, so just the 2 master runes in here. One is the master rune of adamant. This has been in the dwarf book since
the dawn of time.
The dawn of time. Yeah, I remember talking about this in '95. So yeah, it's been around 20 years. Toughness 10.
Ching.
There you go.
Toughness 10, 100 points.
100 points.
What do you say?
Awesome.
You think it's awesome?
It's expensive, but it's
like
awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say blowing your entire runic allowance pretty much on that one thing is
Can't a lord take 150?
125. Rune Lord is 150. Dwarf Lord 125.
So a dwarf lord with that on shield bearers.
He's indestructible.
He's death magic fodder though, because you haven't put some points aside for a ward save.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Well, you saw 50 points worth of wards.
I think it's like everything that's 100 points. Like you look at it and you go, I want to take it, but it's really not the optimum choice.
Right.
Yeah. When you start getting up, when you start saying, "Hey, let's play a huge game," and you're looking for points to spend.
Yeah, sure.
Then you're going to be throwing that.
If you're going to take double lords, you have an army big enough for double lords, then why not just make one of them toughness 10?
Yeah.
Just to spite people.
Do it.
Yeah, for sure.
He's how tough? What?
What? Sphinx? Pa. Yeah. Okay, so the other master rune, and I think this is probably one you'll see more often, is the master rune of Grommel at 30 points gives you a one-up armor save.
Yeah.
That's solid. A one-up armor save is solid all the time. For 30 points.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
How much is the silvered steel armor?
It's 45.
So there you go.
The problem with it is that, characters come with free Gromrel armor.
Yeah.
A shield is 5 points and a rune of stone is 5 points, so you're getting a 2-up armor save for 10 points. or pay 20 extra points to get them to a 1-up.
Well,
So I don't know
you
about
are. However, you get your 1-up and you can take a great weapon.
Exactly. Yep.
that. Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
1-up, great weapon.
1-up, great weapon. All right, we'll call that one a win then.
I think it's not an unreasonable choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Especially with fortitude.
I'll do my swift run through the
Well, we
rest
can't
then.
go too swiftly
'cause
through
there's
the
only-
Rune of Fortitude, which for me is the pick
I guess
of the
there's only
bunch.
6 other runes, so we can probably
We'll
just
go through them quickly, but Rune of Fortitude requires a little more thought because it's so damn awesome.
This is the,
This is
the money.
pick of the bunch.
Okay, so the Rune of Fortitude, you can inscribe up to 3. First one is 35 points, gets you +1 toughness.
That on its own, I don't think is great value.
The second one is 50 points, gives you +1 toughness and the 5-up ward.
Yeah, that's the sweet spot. That is the sweet spot.
I'm trying to think about other items. So the
So you pay
sacred
30
Stegadon Helm of Itza from the Lizardman book gives you +1 toughness and +1 armor save, and impact hits D3, and that is 40 points.
Okay. I'm looking at this from the perspective of Talisman of Endurance is 30
30
for a 5-up.
Yep.
So you're paying 20 extra points for +1 toughness, which on some...
That seems reasonable because a
it
magic
seems
weapon is
reason-
+1
Tough
strength.
6.
Sure, it seems
yeah.
reasonable, but I think it becomes incredible when you realize that adding to toughness is something that gets incrementally better as the number of wounds increases.
Yep.
And if you stack this with the shield bearers, which adds 2 wounds to a character for fairly cheap, now you've made that 5 wounds at toughness 6.
Yep.
I think that's really, and then with the 5-up ward as well, I think that's really the sweet spot for a lord.
Yep. And then the 75-point version, which is 3 runes, allows you to take only 1 wound from a multiple wound special rule on a 2-up.
Yep.
So you know what? That is also not bad. If somebody said to me, "Here's a 25-point talisman," where you would only take multiple wounds on a 2-up, I would probably take it.
Yep. This is definitely, just stacking this guy 3 times is perfect tank lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially
or even
on the
tank
shield
Thane,
bearers. Yeah,
tank Thane would work.
So I really like that rune.
Yep.
Good one.
I
Rune
actually
of
think
Iron's
the
good
next,
too.
the next one's pretty good too, which is the Rune of Iron. I guess it's kind of like the poor man's Rune of Fortitude in some ways. So 20 points in the Rune of Iron gives you +1 wound.
Yep.
45 points gives you +1 wound and +1 toughness, and 70 points gives you +1 wound, +1 toughness, and regen 5-up.
Yep. I actually I think I put this one in my list more than Fortitude because it's a
Really?
little more, it's a little cheaper because I'm still not playing with a Lord. I'm still using Thanes.
Thanes.
Sure.
So it's a little cheaper to get the 2 stacks.
Yeah.
And the 2 stacks on a Thane gives you those, +1 toughness, +1 wound, which makes a Thane about the same
It
level
does.
as a Lord.
Well,
So,
yeah, tough 5 or tough 6 at that point.
Tough 6.
Right.
Tough 6 with 3 wounds.
It's true.
Not to be sniffed at.
For me, for the general, a ward save has to be part of the overall equipment just because
Yeah.
of how common death magic is.
Yeah.
So being able to get that in with Fortitude.
See,
for me is-
I mean, having played Wood Elves for a long time, I never have a ward save on my general. So I don't even look at that and think that that's important.
Well, Fortitude stacked with a couple banner runes of cheap banner runes that give you magic resistance. That 5 could become a 3-up against magic.
Or even just a rune lord in the same unit.
Yep.
You know, right there you've got 5-up.
So, but back to Iron, I think it's a solid choice.
It is a solid
is.
choice.
Not my
I
not
think
my number one, but
it's great
solid.
because between Fortitude and Iron, you can make all of your characters pretty survivable.
Yeah.
Using different combos of those 2.
Agreed.
Yeah.
You can make them all have a few more wounds, make them all have a higher toughness or ward saves, things like that.
Yeah.
So,
and I think actually all the armor runes are reasonable for what you get.
So should we just run through the last few pretty quick?
Yep. So Rune of Shielding, you can only take it once, gives you a 2-up ward against shooting attacks and magic missiles for 25 points.
Actually, that one I don't see that much use for, given that your character's
That
going to be
one-
in a unit anyway.
That one would be awesome if you could put it on a Slayer.
Yeah,
that's exactly
to just
what
run
I was
around
thinking.
for sure.
But they
you
just
can't.
you
They
just
can
can't do
take
it.
weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder is there a
Master engineers would take them.
master engineer or a single model Thane? If you Thanes are only 60 points.
Mm-hmm.
If you threw that on a single model Thane, you could use them as a redirector that would survive to get it to be able to redirect.
Yeah, and
Not a
people
very
would think
fast redirector.
people would think
No,
they
that's
could
true.
just shoot.
I think you're more taking a character just to use that item at that
true.
rune at that
It's true.
point.
But
You're
people
right.
would think, oh, I can just shoot that guy off really quick, and then
Which is
they'd waste a round of shooting trying that. So
Yeah, I would love to see a rune that gives them a faster move. That'd be fun.
I would.
Yeah.
I don't know why you can't put that on a. Well, because it's not. If there was something like that
It's
you can
not
take
dwarfy.
as a talisman to give to a.
no,
Slayers can't even take talismans. Actually, can they? Just
no,
weapons.
just weapon
Just
runes.
weapons, yeah.
That
They run
sucks.
naked.
I wish they could take a it wouldn't be unreasonable to think of a Slayer with like some kind of stone around his neck that gives him these
He wants
saves.
to die.
He does want to die. That's
He
true.
wants to die.
Yeah. What am I talking about?
Yeah. All right.
All right. Moving on.
Moving on. So Rune of Preservation, 25 points. 2-up ward against Killing Blow and Heroic Killing Blow. So, situational, I think.
Situational, but I'm wondering if that is pretty nice actually. When I look at
It
my
is.
build for my Lord, his one glaring weakness is probably Killing
KB.
Blow.
Well,
Yeah.
I will say that I played a game against Aaron and his Black Knights killing blowed my lord before
Oh.
I got to do anything.
Yeah.
Mm.
And,
And
there's a
that's-
lot of units with Killing Blow.
Yeah.
And that, or I guess it was my Thane, but still, he was a Thane that had a lower initiative, and didn't
That was
get to,
that?
That was that.
Yeah.
That was my general.
Yeah.
So, if you need that guy to stay alive,
I'm thinking about it now. There's very few armies that don't have a unit with Killing Blow.
yeah, most people do have at least one unit that can deal that out.
Yeah.
Not everybody takes them. But
Mhm.
But, yeah. I don't think Chaos Dwarves have Killing
No, we
Blow.
do not.
But, I'm thinking through, like, Lizardmen have one, Vampires have one, Wood Elves have one, Bretonnians have one, Skaven have
Do
one.
High Elves have one? I don't think
Mm,
so.
No,
No.
that's Dark Elves.
Dark Elves.
No, I don't think they do.
Because White Lions do not. They would be the
White,
one
White
that
Lions
did,
don't,
but they
and
don't.
Phoenix Guard don't.
No.
And then you also got to think that anybody
there's a
can-
lot of it out
scrolls
there.
of
Yeah.
binding. There's tons of
Yeah.
monsters with killing blows.
Yeah,
so.
Bloodletters have.
So it
Killing
is actually
Blow,
something
yeah.
to think about that it might be.
Yeah, yep, that's true. All right, the Rune of Impact. This is a funny one.
Yeah,
You get one impact hit for 10 points.
it's
you
cheap,
well,
but not
it's cheap.
worth it.
I don't know if you have taken
If you've taken something to give you extra
strength, and then you're on the charge, right? So if you've taken the Rune of Cleaving,
2 runes of cleaving.
Well,
does that count?
Pair this with the Master Rune that gives you D6 wounds or D6 multi wounds.
mm-hmm.
If those two stack together,
They don't. They don't.
Then-
Because it's the
okay.
weapon.
Yeah.
All right, and it's the same on the strength.
Then
right?
I
The
still don't
weapon-
think it's worth
No,
it.
I think this weapon. I think the rune of cleaving would, because this gives you +1 strength.
grants its wielder +1 strength.
Yeah. So that's to the characteristic.
That goes to the
+1 strength
characteristic.
with a capital letter means it's on your characteristic.
So you go from base strength 4 to base strength 5,
Yeah.
which means when you charge, you'd be strength 6.
So you do that.
So
yeah.
you would then do an impact hit of strength 6. It's shenanigans.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I've spent 2,490 points. What am I going to do?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the D6 wounds one wouldn't stack because that's the weapon
Yeah.
has D6
Yeah.
wounds.
Yeah.
Not the
That's too bad.
guy.
Yep.
That is too bad, but yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And okay. And then lastly, the Rune of Stone, 5 points to get +1 to your armor save. You can't stack it.
No reason.
You can't
to
stack it, but you're not limited to having that. You can. Does it say
That's
that?
right. It doesn't have the rule of pride, so
Yeah.
you can have as many of them as you want.
No
just-
reason to not put it on
You can have
every
as many
character
Yeah,
in the army.
as many 1 stacks of those as you want.
Yeah. So it turns your Gromrel to 2-up.
Yep.
So you just take a shield and you're good
Yep.
for a 1-up if
No,
that's what you want.
it turns your Gromrel to a 3-up.
Oh,
and then
you're
you
right. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Get a
Three-
2-up with a
Gromrel,
shield.
Gromrel plus shield. Yes.
But
2-up.
it means you can have every character with a 2-up in your army.
Yep.
And you should.
And
For 5 points.
somebody
you
on
should.
shield bearers doesn't even need that.
No,
No.
it doesn't. Doesn't.
So yeah, why not?
Pretty
Every
good.
Character.
Pretty good. All right. Okay, let's move on to banner runes.
Yes.
So
The master ones in this section are all very interesting, actually, and kind of
very
not
useful.
only interesting as items in themselves, but can almost dictate the play
they
style
dictate
of
a strategy,
whole army.
yeah. Which when you think about it, makes a ton of sense. If you have a magic item that could potentially influence your army, it would be a banner.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Anything else is going to influence what you do with a unit or a character.
Right.
This seems to be the only thing that should influence your army.
Yeah, it's very fluffy.
Okay, so let's go through them. Master Rune of Groth One Eye at 75 points. Grants Stubborn to the Bearer's unit and all friendly dwarf units within 12 inches.
So it's worth mentioning that at 75 points, you are limited to either a BSB or hammers. Right? They can take 75.
Ungrim with...
Ungrim's Slayers.
Which is
Sure.
kind of useless.
But hammers or...
Hammers is what
or
you're
the
really...
BSB.
I mean, realistically, you're going to take this on hammers because you want to protect your BSB.
Yeah.
I think.
So, yeah.
So
you're looking at this on a unit of hammers and then everything within 12 inches stubborn.
Yeah,
so you can make an entire stubborn battle line.
But that's basically what happens, though, is it kind of dictates a battle line strategy,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So likely you've got a unit of hammers in the center, and then you've got flanking unit of probably longbeards, potentially 2 longbeards, 1 on either side, and that's your battle line.
Sure.
Yep.
And that was the army list that you.
That's my army list right now.
Yeah.
I've been playing with this rune a lot. I like it, but what I've noticed is I'm actually my hammers tend to die down to usually the unit champion or something like that, and I'm losing that banner. And all of a sudden, when I need it the most, it's gone.
That is, yeah.
So, it is a little more points efficient to use that over. Later on, we're going to get to those. There's the rune of Stoicism. Is that what it is?
Stoicism.
Yeah. So that's the one that gives any unit stubborn for, and it's 35 points. So any unit can take that can normally take a rune. So it's cheaper to do that over the 2 of those, but still, you just find yourself like...
And I do, after thinking on this a bit, I think in an army list like yours, it just ends up being more versatile and worthwhile to put the individual stubborn runes on the 2 Longbeard
and that's what
units,
I'm starting to notice now
because the hammers
myself.
are stubborn anyway.
Yeah, because I found that I was letting the banner dictate my movement.
Sure.
Now, where I think the banner is great is if you're going to do kind of a defensive build...
Mm-hmm.
Then you have that there to babysit all of your war machines.
Sure.
All of like 2 or 3 big blocks of quarrelers up front that you expect to stand and shoot, fight with their great weapons to the last man, and they get countercharged by the hammers.
So
right? So
yeah.
that's where you want to do it. But because I'm doing kind of a more infantry fighty list instead of a standy back shooty list, I think that it's better for me to go with Stoicism.
I think
and
so.
I'm starting to come to that realization.
Because then you don't always have to deploy hammers in the middle.
Yeah, you're not stuck in a 24-inch bubble.
Right.
And if
you
I
can
need
load
to...
the hammers on one flank where they might, crush that flank while you hold the center with your 2 units.
Yep. And it just feels wasteful to give stubborn to a unit that already has stubborn.
Yeah,
sure.
I know
there's the bubble, but right away you've kind of duplicated.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of my favorite, I haven't obviously played with this, but my favorite hypothetical use of this banner is to form like a double battle line in which you'll have your hammerers at the back with some cannons, and then you have 2 units of rangers who you can just deploy 12 inches in front of the hammerers then, using their scouts, and then you have 2 different battle lines. The rangers are poo-pooing everything with their crossbows, and then get charged and just hang in there until the bitter end while the hammers get ready for the counter charge.
Now, what I have noticed is those units that are in its bubble, it is incredible to be that, leadership 10.
To know that unit's just going to hang into the last man.
Those, my Longbeards are fighting down to the last guy, and I've taken tests on my Quarrelers that, one guy after taking 10 wounds passes the test, and people are like, "Oh, stubborn!" You know, it's so powerful to give that bubble. So it's a great one, but it will dictate how you move in the game.
Yeah.
And when you're already such a low movement army to begin with, being forced to either not move because you need to stay in that bubble, or to just not move. Yeah, it's just I think it limits you quite a bit. But plan for that, and you'll succeed with this.
Sure.
Yeah.
I do think it's it's the rune to me that on first reading of the book stood out as like one of the greatest runes in the book. But
and it feels
on a
so
little more
dwarfy.
thought, it does. Yeah. But on a little more thought, like having the rune of stoicism available and being able to use it a couple of times allows you to create just a more versatile version of the same thing, essentially.
Yeah. And I think it depends, because let's say you're not taking hammers, right? Because I'm a fan of the iron breakers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, then you're going for the BSB build with this rune, right?
Yeah.
So you take your BSB, you put it in your unit of iron breakers, and now you've got your longbeards and so forth beside you. You know, it's at that point, it feels like it's a little less redundant for a start,
because you haven't wasted it on hammers who are stubborn already.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, your iron breakers are going to stay in there forever, right? Because they're a lot harder to kill than hammers, right? Hammers are quite squishy.
Always, yeah.
Yeah. Well, 5 up
3 up,
always,
5 up.
and 3 up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So I can't draw any conclusions, but I would really like to try this in a couple of games with non-hammer units, you know, and see what it feels like.
The only trouble then is your BSB is kind of squishy, unless you can get them into the second rank by having you have your command group and maybe a shield bearer lord in the front rank, and then you can put your BSB behind.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously that dictates one sort of strategy, or maybe a small group of strategies. Next one we have 75 points, the Master Rune of Strumney Redbeard. Okay, in this one, this is basically a war banner with a 12-inch bubble.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm looking at it, and I think I would never take that.
Me neither. Like +1s in 7th edition, sure. In 8th edition, combats seem to be won and lost by such large margins that a +1.
Well, I don't think that's
less efficient.
I don't think that's true across the board, but I think it's true for dwarfs.
Yeah.
I think it's true for combat block armies, right? Pardon me, with an MSU army, often combats are just won by one point.
Sure.
But you know, when you've got full rank and banner bonus already, it really is going to come down to how many wounds you're inflicting.
And with your dwarfs, you're often looking to either not really care about losing combat because that unit's stubborn anyway, or really needing to win the combat with like your kind of hammer unit or your.
So it is worth pointing out that you could have both in 2 10-man units of hammers standing behind your line.
I've never thought about more than
you
one. You
can do dwarves as MSU. You can. It'd be wonky. It'd maybe be a little hard, but with these bubble banners, you're creating bubbles of completely stubborn, of +1 combat. You can do that, and because you can throw those banners 75 points each onto small units of hammers that you can place late in the deployment to really dictate where that bubble is, you can kind of you can play.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
that is interesting.
Keep that in mind. Like hammers, 75 points, they can take all these masters.
So what are they? They're 14 points a model for a hammer.
Yeah.
So you're dropping down 215 points.
It's 100, and it would be 150 because you need to pay for the standard, and then upgrade it to whatever.
225. It's a little rich for my blood to get something like
maybe.
that from.
But is 225 too much to pay to give a bubble stubborn? If you're using them as a bunker, you're not putting them out in front to fight.
For me, when I can make 2 stubborn units anyway. With
what if you were playing MSU though?
Well, if I'm playing MSU,
Yeah,
then
it's a
maybe.
different strategy. Yeah.
But yeah. So I
But you
think,
wouldn't play MSU.
Yeah.
Personally, no,
He's
but I
just
think
he's
it's
got that
kinda-
sneer on his face. It's
Yeah.
like,
Personally, I
"Ugh."
would not, but I mean, I like that you're looking for an entirely different way to play this army.
Yeah,
And I think it's
that-
doable,
yeah.
right?
I think that these runes make that completely viable.
Yep.
Like, I seriously, having that one quarreler who just managed to not get wounded for 2 rounds of combat stand there stubborn against a whole multi-unit combat.
Stubborn
so
makes
Yeah.
for countercharge.
Yeah.
And countercharge is where I think dwarves shine, right?
With the strength.
With the +1 strength and the low movement, you basically are setting things up so you can get
It's a classic
countercharges.
counterpunch army.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
what you react to your opponent, you make your charges and get your
Yeah,
Yeah,
big
and with
strength
the
hits.
with the gyrocopters now, I think it's
I think it's possible.
very
yeah.
viable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, whoa. So obviously,
Sorry.
no, it's great because just to kind of give listeners a little bit of an idea, we were intending to talk about all the runic magic and then go into tactics, but what's coming out is
Yeah.
a lot of the tactics we were going to talk
Sure.
about anyway.
It really makes
It's
sense
kind of
while talking about the
dictative-
banners.
yeah,
because
for sure,
There's
because
certain builds that are really just focused around the banners.
Very much so. Very much so. Okay, Master Rune of Valaya. This is another one that's been around since the dawn of
Yeah.
time. So this gives you a +2 bonus to dispel attempts. So effectively
You have
giving your
4.
armor, your
level
army a
4.
level 4 exactly.
Yeah.
And it's got a neat little additional thing where any remains in play spell is immediately dispelled on a 3+ at the start of each friendly magic phase.
I think that doesn't end up being that powerful, given that in your friendly magic phase anyway, you have nothing else to do with your dice other than dispelling remains and play spells.
There's still going to be times when you roll a 2
There is
or
gonna
a
be
3.
times, for sure.
And you get to roll for every remain in play spell.
Yeah.
Especially those pits of shade, a pit of shade. No, the other
Purple
one, Purple
Sun.
Sun. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
those, get rid of those vortexes.
vortexes.
Yeah.
However, it's 65 points. So I look at this.
But I think that the previous bonus, the +2 to dispel,
Is the key.
Is the
Yeah.
key. It's fantastic. I would love to get that into every list.
And
I
again,
could,
on a
but-
small bunker of hammers
Yeah.
with the runesmith in it,
Yep.
that
true.
you can have, a dispel scroll on, basically.
But
You're looking, it's
you could also just take it on your main block of hammers if you're going to use stoicism to get your bonuses on the other units.
very true.
Yeah.
Because then
and-
you could still, no, you wouldn't be able to take any other runes, would you? No, but still,
No.
pretty good.
Yeah, so there are, I think, depending on who you are, but there are definitely people on the dwarf forums and the fantasy forums who are basically saying, I can't build a list without this, and I think that
Without Valaya?
and I think
interesting.
that might be down to the meta.
I would say the next one on the list is that one for me. I can't imagine ever
Well-
building a dwarf list without it.
Well, before we get into that, I really think it is. If you are playing in a meta that has a
Death
lot
magic.
of magic in it,
heavy,
yeah, very magic heavy. And you are struggling to dispel stuff, and you're getting wrecked as a result.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm going to pick on Dark Elves a little bit. The damage that can be done by the Warlock units. In addition, first you have to dispel what the level 4 sorcerer is casting, and then you've got the Warlocks on top of that.
Sure.
I think some metas are definitely going to need.
I mean,
this.
put it this way: most of us who have casters in our army never leave home without a level 4.
Very true.
And a big part of that is getting the dispelling bonus.
Absolutely.
So
it is.
for your dwarfs,
I get it.
would you do the same?
Yeah, so you're already halfway there just with your army
exactly.
by nature, but you just got to find a home for 65
You do have to
point
find a
banner,
home for it.
which is going to have to be hammers again
Yeah.
or the
Or the
BSB.
BSB. So let's look at that right away. We've covered 3 runes. All 3 are worth taking in some respects, and all of them you can only take on hammers or BSB, right? So you're going to have to make some hard trade-offs. And this is the last master rune we're going to cover now, which is
so
Tom's
good.
favorite,
It is my
the
favorite.
master rune of Grungni.
I think it's my favorite too as well.
But this is BSB only.
So
Correct.
not your hammers.
Not your hammers. 60 points. you get a 4-up ward save
on the model.
And a 5-up ward save against shooting attacks and magic missiles to any friendly units within 6 inches.
So nice.
So
because
good.
you're going to want a ward save on your BSB anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But to put a ward save on your BSB, you have to give up the chance to take a runic banner.
Yep.
Unless you take this one specific item, and then you get your ward save and the nice bubble bonus 5-up ward against shooting.
And it's
missiles,
worth
magic
noting
missiles.
that BSBs have unlimited amount of points to spend on runes.
Mm-hmm.
So they can take this rune, which is 60 points, but then they could still take, they still have
Other
2
runes on top. Yeah.
that at any point cost.
On the banner.
On the banner.
On the banner,
On
yeah.
the banner. Because once they take runes on the banner, they can't take
you can't take
runes
anything else.
other places. That's kind of typical with.
That's a really good point.
But
yeah.
but that means they could spend a lot.
Yeah, and so I could see this being, again, a little bit like the ring that we were talking about earlier. It's like, why would I not take this, right? There has to be a reason not to take it, because giving a 5-up ward against shooting and magic missiles is pretty darn good for
Especially if
any
you want
unit.
to take one of the slightly kind of squishier dwarf builds of a lot of hammerers or longbeards with great weapons who only have the 5-up armor.
Yep.
This just... It makes the whole kind of
Slayers,
makes the kind of counterpunch strategy more viable as well, because your opponent's going to have shooting too, and if you're standing back and trying to react to them, they can be picking off your army at the same time.
Yep.
So this makes that whole strategy of hanging back a little bit just way more viable.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the regular runes. So all of those were master runes, which means you can only have one of them in your army and only one on the banner. Now we're going into the regular runes, so you can these can stack with the master runes or be on their own or whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So the rune of battle, pretty straightforward. The first one is +1 combat res. The second one is +2 combat res. And the third one is +2 combat res and fight in extra ranks. And their points are 35, 70, 125. My first viewpoint is a little bit like the Stromny Redbeard one. I'm like, what? I'm not sure I would ever want to take this.
Yeah, me neither.
I know some people are taking it with 3 stacks just for the 3 stacks. But
to get that fight in extra ranks.
But you're having to put that on your BSB only.
Right.
Yeah.
And to me, you would have to do Death Star.
Yeah.
If you're doing Death Star, it's worth it.
And then it comes down to kind of what Aiden said before, which your Death Star is probably going to be hammerers, and when they're kicking out 40 attacks already,
Yeah.
It's a win more.
Is it really that important going up to 50, especially seeing as you're going to start to lose those attacks as the back rank gets whittled down?
Yeah, and I would rather protect them. If I have a Death Star, you've seen me take the Death Star with Wood Elves and give them a 5-up ward.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
They stay alive for a lot longer.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think they're an inherently bad item, but when you compare that to them to some of the other abilities you can get.
Yeah, for sure. And that's
not
really what it
impressed.
boils down to.
Yeah.
So next one up, and this is an interesting one, and it
Very
changes
Very good one.
strategies. The Rune of Slowness. So you can take this 3 times. The first time you take it, 35 points. A unit that charges you subtracts d6 inches from their charge distance. The second time, they roll 2d6 and choose the highest dice when subtracting from the charge distance. And the third time, and that's 50 points. And the third time for 80 points, the same as the previous one, plus they have always strikes last in the first round of combat. Okay, and that's 80 points.
I'd say 2 is the sweet spot with that one.
Yep.
Man, if that third one was 75,
Yeah.
Yeah. Then Hammerers would be
Hammerers would take that, and then
every time
then
because they
they'd be
could get that
Simo.
counter charge in.
That's
and
the
they'd be
unfortunate
Simo
thing
against
there.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's really some nice stuff that you can only really put on your BSB, so you have to make that
That call, yeah.
Yeah.
The second rune, I mean, at 50 points, that's a whole bunch of units can take
Yeah,
it, 50 or
pretty
2 or
much
3
every-
anyway.
Longbeards can do... Yep,
Longbeards get 50,
Longbeards,
Ironbreakers get
Iron
50.
Everybody, yeah.
Iron Drakes, which for me is the
50.
key
Yep.
use of this rune, would be on some Iron Drakes.
Yeah.
Because people are going to charge, you fail, you shoot at them, charge again, you
And
still get to
this
stand and shoot.
is where
and
your
just
Rune of Flight goes in this unit.
Absolutely, yeah. Because then I get to smack them twice.
Yeah, so you put your Rune of Flight guy in with the Iron Drakes, with this rune on their standard.
That's pretty
at
tasty,
2 stacks.
Yep.
And you're doing, make sure you have the multi-wounds on there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden...
So I really like this on a kind of small
You can't have the multi-wounds because they're both master runes.
No. The rune of...
the
might.
Might.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So you just put 2 runes of might and the master rune of flight.
Yep.
That's 90 points.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love two runes of slowness on some Iron Drakes, kind of ahead of the main battle line, because then, like I said, people are failing their charges and you're shooting. When they're close enough that you're pretty sure they're going to make the charge anyway, then you just flee the Iron Drakes through your big badass combat unit who is behind them.
I'm not sure you would even need to flee them. Those guys are so solid in combat anyways. Like,
you put them at an angle and allow the counter charge.
Yeah,
that's what you want to do.
Just take it.
Counter charge.
Have somebody with the bubble banner of behind them. And they're not going anywhere, and people are going to regret that charge.
Yep.
Standing and shooting, because it's dwarf crafted, right? So they get to stand and shoot no matter what. So
yeah.
Well, not no matter
No, it's
what.
quick to fire.
It's quick to fire and dwarf crafted, so yeah.
No penalty. No penalty. That's
definitely worth it.
Penalties.
Okay, so the Rune of Slowness.
Real interesting one.
Very interesting one. That applies more to a unit rather than your battle line.
Yeah,
though, right?
Situational kind of thing,
but very good, versatile, goes across a bunch of things, and again, you can take 2 runes on a banner. And then you could take 1 rune plus something else on another banner. There's a few options there. Okay. Next up is Rune of Sanctuary. Very straightforward. You can take it 3 times, 15 points a pop, and it gives you a magic resistance 1 for each time you take it.
Yeah.
Which is great when you stack it with Grungy, Master Rune of Grungy.
Yes, very good with that. I, however, don't think that this would get taken much because of what we were talking about last time, in that, really you want to take a couple of runesmiths and or a rune lord who come with magic resistance anyway. Sure,
but if you want to do a rune lord in what, I don't know if all lists are going to end up taking 2 runesmiths, 1 for each unit, because points are going to be kind of tight anyway. I see this as a really nice way to, if you have a runesmith in one unit, this will get you magic resistance on the other unit. And the really nice thing about one rune of Sanctuary is that it's 15 points, and there's a whole bunch of other nice runes that are 35 points. So this just slots in nicely with them to form a 50-point item,
allowing you to take
them twice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I do see that happening. It's actually the cheapest rune, the Rune of Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's definitely how it's going to get used, and that's a benefit. 6-up ward against magic is nothing to be sneezed at.
Especially when that goes in one of your units that has some characters who have a ward save already.
Yep.
It's bumping them.
Or you've got the bubble from the Master Rune of Grungy.
Yep.
Precisely.
All right, so we were talking about this earlier. The Rune of Stoicism's 35 points to give stubborn.
Doesn't stack.
Doesn't stack. It's just 1 rune.
Yeah.
Again, you can take that.
It's just simple.
And you can take it with the Rune of Sanctuary to be a 50-point item. So 2 of the non-hammer units could potentially be stubborn.
This is what we're saying with the build Ricky's been using 2 Longbeard units and 1 Hammers unit instead of taking that bubble banner. Just give one of them a Rune of Stoicism and 1 Stoicism plus Sanctuary, and now you have your 3 stubborn units that can all kind of move independently of one another.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it though. You could do that, and it is more flexible. I think that 80% of the time you're going to want to have them all close to each other anyway, and it's not going to make a difference.
Relatively close, but I would prefer to have the Hammerers on a flank probably, so they can kind of. They're going to be the unit that crushes something first, and then kind of bring them around to close the door on the other units that are being held up.
They're the counter charge unit.
Right. So I'd rather have them on a flank.
Yeah, that's true. Rather than in the middle, which is where you need to be to get the bubble.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, which is one of the things I'm noticing too, is I'm having to put my hammers dead center, and it dictates the movement too much, so that frees you up.
Okay.
Sure. Cool.
So this next one got a lot of discussion when the book first came out.
Very interesting.
The Strala's rune, which is 35 points and gives the unit Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, again, it's 35 points. So with the Rune of Sanctuary, that allows you to have 2, potentially 3 if you're taking 1 in your unit of hammers. So this go ahead. Yeah,
I see it as something that is either going to be taken in multiples or not at all, because it would be very useful just on a unit of quarrelers or something to get them up the field a bit before they start shooting. But you can't take runes on quarrelers. You can only really take them on the combat units. So you're either going to want to get your entire combat line up the field, or
I would put it on. I would put it on the Slayers.
You put it on the Slayers.
Yeah.
I don't know about like dividing the line that much.
They're unbreakable. It doesn't matter. The longer they're out of combat, the more they die.
But would you not want to just get the whole battle line up there to support them? Because I'm thinking if the Slayers are up there on their own, I'm just gonna throw all of my units into those Slayers, wipe them, and then be able to concentrate on everything else.
Well, again, like we were talking about earlier, having the ability to deploy and then redeploy by 12 inches is not necessarily a bad thing.
But this is not. I see that as being great on a flyer. Yeah. But this is not just pick up the unit and move it 12 inches. You still have to follow the movement rules, so like wheeling and stuff.
Yeah,
so it's
that's
not
true.
Be
it's
that
not quite the
useful for
same.
Repositioning a unit.
I could see it. I could see doing it with a unit of Ironbreakers, because you would potentially, push them forward and to kind of force your opponent's battle line to turn a certain way. So if you had deployed your Ironbreakers reasonably centrally, you could then, or it would depend a lot on the terrain. And I think it's situational, but
you can create a funnel.
Exactly. You create a killing ground for war machines or thunderers or whatever
like you
else.
said, if that's in the center of the board, and you create the funnel into your castle, and then you pop miners up off the edge of the table.
That's
all of a sudden,
cool,
you have two.
Make a kind of hinge battle line with it that just kind of sweeps around. Like that.
Exactly. Because the Ironbreakers, especially if you're able to give them stubborn somehow,
you can. Yep.
You could end up, they're going to be very hard to inflict a lot of damage on, no matter how many units are charging and countercharging into them.
Yeah, if you can get an oath stone in them too, then you don't care which.
Yeah, you don't care where the attack's coming from.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's true.
And an oath stone, it's just you just take it on a character and pop
25
it in there,
points, throw it on a character, and
it does allow you to just take a completely smash mouth dwarf army, kind of have.
If you want to,
yeah, 2 real blender units, just pop them right up in your opponent's face. And
would that work? Like if you take 2. Like a hammer unit, even 2 hammers units, vanguard them.
40 longbeards, great weapons. 40 hammers with the 5-up bubble.
But you would never want to. You would never want to pay the points for that on if you're playing somebody who has scouts, because they can deploy their scouts to block your vanguard.
Yep.
Or people who have other vanguards and they roll before you. Because then all of a sudden you've wasted all your points on this stuff.
That's true.
I'm not sure that there's too much that they can do to really to block your vanguard that much.
You can't end within 12 inches. So scouts deploying 12 inches away, you can't move.
You basically just can't move at all.
That's true. But if you're taking rangers, then it's a roll off to see who scouts first.
True.
Right.
So you can put if you know that they've got scouts, you can put I'm personally always thinking I'm never leaving home without rangers, right?
True.
So
I think we've all agreed on that, right?
Yes, of course.
So if you can put your rangers, such that there's no way they can deploy their scout. I mean, at that point, it's just a roll off. And it's a game of dice, right?
Yeah.
So,
but they can't be blocked, so it's not a sure thing.
No, it's not.
That's what makes it risky to take that as a.
That's true.
As a kind of strategy, but
if you know your opponent and you know they don't have those things, then by all means it's totally viable. But for all comers, I don't think you're going to ever see it because there's you have to tie up a lot of
the
points.
Whole strategy.
Yeah, you have to tie up a lot of points, and by tying up the points into the Stroller's rune, you're not taking other runes that are more useful.
I'd agree.
So
none of the lists I've made use Strollers at all. Just because I kind of wanted to a little bit, but it just doesn't mesh with the rest of the army.
Yeah. The one thing that I could think about doing with it, as in an all-comers list, is you have that hammer, the very hard-hitting unit. You put it on the flank, and you vanguard up the flank, and if they deploy their scouts there, then all you're going to do is just charge right into the scouts on the first turn, right? If you don't vanguard, you're going to charge in, and you get the equivalent of it anyway. It's not a perfect strategy, but the hard part about the dwarfs is getting into combat.
Sure.
Right? If you can have one unit that is relatively hard hitting, that moves up on the flank and gets into combat early, and then can push across the battle line of your enemy, that's not it's not a terrible strategy.
No.
It's going to fall down against fast-moving and maneuverable armies, but the dwarf army is going to fall down against those anyway.
Another nice use might just be a kind of line of Iron Drakes. Move them up, just create a solid kind of speed bump in front of your main gun
or move
line.
them into that 18-inch range, turn one.
Yeah, and the more that we talk about this, the more that I realize the only unit that can take magic standards that has a missile weapon
is Iron Drakes. It is one of the really nice things of Iron Drakes.
So that does give them a little bit more of a reason to potentially take them.
Sure.
The nice thing about this book, there's a lot of things you think
exactly.
I wouldn't mind taking that.
Yeah.
There's nothing that just says, oh, you got to take these guys.
Like my favorite list for dwarfs takes 2 units of rangers, but definitely one of the things I would consider is swapping one of those out for some Iron Drakes, mainly because I can get a banner on them that gives them a whole new ability, slowness or strollers.
Yep.
Well, and they're a good Anvil unit.
Yeah, they're good anyway.
Yeah, so they're
definitely not
useful.
a bad unit.
All right.
Let's get the last two in there.
Let's do it.
Last two out of the way. We got the Rune of Courage, which gives you immune to psych for 20 points.
Awesome.
And then you've got the Ancestor Rune for 20 points. One use only. Allows you to take a single break test on 1d6. So
it's like an auto pass break test.
It's an auto pass, especially if you're stubborn. It's auto pass, but I can't see me necessarily taking that
for 20 points.
For
it's
20
kind
points.
of expensive for what it does.
Yeah,
if you are playing a lot of Slanesh, it might be worth
maybe.
taking. And you just don't want those.
Situational.
With leadership 10 dudes and a lot of them stubborn anyway, you have to just accept sometimes it's going to come down to the dice and not
just
try and,
keep your BSB
not try and
alive.
protect against it constantly.
Yeah. All right, so that was banners.
Moving on.
Talismans goes fast.
We got two more to cover, and then we'll go through some of the list ideas that we had. So talisman runes. These are so there's only half a dozen of them or so.
Yeah.
Let's just go through them quickly. The Master Rune of Balance is 50 points, can only be taken by runesmiths and rune lords. During the magic phase, you roll a d6. On a 4-up, you steal a power dice from your opponent.
So this is something dwarfs have had for a long time as well.
Yeah, and at 50 points, I'm not sure I would ever do it.
Yeah, 50 points for a 4-up is too random.
I think.
If it's 50 points for a 2-up, I would maybe do it.
This used to just be an auto.
Yep.
And I think it used to be 50 points still as well, and you would just auto steal one of them.
Yeah.
For that, I would take it, but
or
for a 4-up,
if it was 3-up even, I would take it. 2/3 of the time, but half the time,
nah,
it's too expensive. Especially there's so many better things to put your points on.
Exactly. Okay, so Master Rune of Spite at 25 points. Every time you suffer an unsaved wound, you inflict a Strength 5 hit.
Nah. I'd rather take stuff that prevents me taking that wound in the first place.
You just told me I took a wound. Exactly. I don't want that to happen.
That's not cool.
If it was every time you took a saved wound, then
Every time you save something,
then it would be awesome.
Yeah.
But as it is, it's oh great, so I'm gonna die,
and then you take
and then my
a
25 point
strength 5
rune is gonna have an effect after I'm dead.
Yeah.
No, not
It's
worth
probably
it.
going to hit one of your 12-point executioners who just wounded me.
Yeah.
And who
Yeah.
cares? Anyway.
Okay, Master Rune of Passage, 10 points. You automatically pass any dangerous terrain test, and so does your unit. Meh. So I meant on this primarily, and I think this might be a modifier if people want to take multiple talismans that are similar.
Yeah, it's a 10 point.
Yeah.
So
But the reason that I don't like it is you're like a 90% infantry.
When do infantry
unit.
ever take dangerous terrain?
I mean,
Anyway.
marshes is about the only thing I can think of.
yeah,
And there's some spells.
marshes
Yeah.
and spells.
Curse of
Anvil, yeah.
etc.
So
very situational.
very situational. Stay out of the marsh.
Some of the
Stay out of the marsh.
well, and I think some of
you,
the
can
common
see where, you can
sense.
see where the marsh is at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
There's no
yeah, we
need-
play with a lot of mundane terrain. If you take some of the arcane stuff or the what is it?
Yeah,
Magical terrain.
Yeah,
Some of it does
even
that,
so.
but even then, you're like, I think
Yeah.
it's just a good way to.
It's a good way to take extras.
Yep.
of certain things, yeah.
All right, so the next one's probably more likely to see a bunch of play. The Rune of Warding, 15, 35, and 45 points respectively for
So it
1,
ends up
2,
being
and 3.
exactly the same as the respective items from the
Yep.
basic rulebook.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they just kept the points the same.
Which is a 6
Puts
upward,
them on the
5
same
upward, 4
playing field,
upward.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can take basically
But
talismans
the
protection.
key to this is other army books can't have that many ward saves across the board.
Yeah,
No,
you
they
can
can't.
take a
Dwarves
holy
can.
crap ton of ward saves. in this
Absolutely.
army.
And you could take a 5 upward at 35 points and then throw a Rune of Luck on it.
Yeah.
Or throw a Rune of the Furnace on it, or a
Uh-huh.
Rune of Passage on it,
You
or
can
a
only
Rune of
have one
Passage and a
4-up.
Rune of the Furnace.
But
Yeah. You
How
can have
about-
2 4s.
You can have 2 4s,
Yeah, because you can throw the Rune of the Furnace on it at 5 points.
and you can throw the rune of the luck
no,
on
no,
it.
because you can't have more than 3 runes on one item.
Oh, you're right. You're
Oh
right.
yeah,
you're
that's
right. Sorry, my bad.
No, you're
Yeah,
right.
My
You
bad.
can
So-
only have the 1 4-up.
You can only have 1 4-up, but
You can have a crap ton of
you could also
5-ups.
have the 4-up from the standard on your BSB.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
could have 2 4-ups in your army, and then you could have, a bunch of 5-ups. So
Yeah.
it does.
And,
There's,
and that's in line with most of the other army books because most of the rest of them, like they can take the Armor of Destiny, which is a 4-up, and the Talisman of
Prez.
Prez, which is a 4-up. So that seems reasonable.
Yep.
But you can get way more 5-ups than anyone else.
No, and here's the best rune coming up right now. The rune
Well,
of
the auto take rune.
Yep.
the auto take rune. It's the question is how many do you take?
Yeah.
As
so
many
the
as possible.
More.
the rune of spell breaking obviously only goes on runesmiths and rune lords.
Mm-hmm.
25 points gets you a dispel. And then if you take 2 of them at 45 points, and this is the fun one, it's a dispel, and on a 4-up, the enemy wizard forgets the spell and can't cast it for the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So at 45 points, you can take a 25 pointer. You can take many 25 pointers
Yeah.
if you wanted to.
You'd
One
have
on
to have
each. Multiple runesmiths.
You'd have to-
multiple runesmiths because each runesmith can only have it once.
Yes. So, depending on how your army's kitted out, there's no reason why each runesmith couldn't have one if that's
Yeah.
what you wanted.
Each runesmith.
You could
I'm
have
pretty
3.
sure. Yeah.
You could have 3, because with Rune of Furnace.
You could take the Rune of Spellbreaking and any one of these other 25
yeah,
pointers.
yeah.
So you can basically have as many as you have runesmiths.
If
in
you're
your
doing
army.
the
Yeah.
double stack, then you.
If
can
If you're
have
doing the
3,
double
yeah.
stack, yeah. Poor Ricky hasn't yet managed to roll a 4-up. but
I think you did against. Oh no, you did against.
No, I
me.
did, but here's where I finally got it to happen. So I was playing Nick with his Lord Croak and a level 1 with Beast. Lord Croak, no matter what, always knows Rune of Itza. Or Ruination of, or whatever. Itza. Basically,
yeah.
Itza. So he can never forget that spell. Even if something makes him forget it, he automatically gets it back.
Okay.
So I was like, well, I can't even use the rune on that guy. I'll just throw it on the level 1 when he casts his first casting of
Wissons.
Wissen's wild form, and that's when it finally worked. Was on the one time that I didn't really care.
The 2 times I've played against dwarfs, it's worked both times and taken my number 6 spell each time.
That's awesome.
When I played Aiden, it took
Yeah.
final transmutation with Law of Metal, and in the tournament,
That's a filthy cheater spell anyway.
it took Flames of Asgore from me, which is also
The
Yeah.
other filthy
Cheater
cheater spells.
spell.
This rune just synergizes with the runesmiths and their low points cost and the rules that they give to their units so well that you're. I mean, really, I feel like I'm always going to have 2 runesmiths. I've already bought 2 of the models.
One with 2 of these and one with just one.
One with 2 and one with 1, and then
Agreed.
And then I do some little. You know, they both have a rune of stone, so they have the 2-up armor, and then they have some basic weapon runes just to kind of give magical attacks against stuff, and then they can just go in any unit. And give versatility.
Are we in agreement that in this case, paying 20 extra points for something that only works on a 4-up is worth it?
It is. It is. And I've just been
been
unlucky, but I think it's totally fair. Because taking away in for some armies, the new Wood Elves, for instance, that their number 6 spell is the Great Equalizer. It's the thing that makes that army viable still. You know, besides being a good general. But so to take away that spell, you need to pay points for that, and so by having to pay at least for the runesmith 65 points, and then another 45 for this, I think is.
And there's just a little bit of
it's fair.
Your opponents are going to know that pretty much most dwarf lists have this in, and it's going to make them a little wary about throwing out that big spell early in the game. And that they might save it for later. And try and get it off then.
And if you have 2 of them, you can just auto-dispel something and then eat the one.
Yeah, and I think, I think it's also good. I know you didn't care about the level 1 with beasts getting Wissons, but in some armies, that's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
And so being able to throw it out there and know this is the spell you're going to get off that guy if you get it, I think it's definitely worth it. For 20 points, I would take that. Yeah.
Well, and he was frustrated because later in the game, he did want to use that spell, and he didn't have it.
He didn't have it anymore.
So,
Moving on.
Yep.
I love this next one, too.
Yeah, so
love it.
Rune of Luck, 15 points, 1 use only. Reroll a single roll throughout the game.
To hit.
So it's to hit, to wound, armor save, ward save, or characteristic test. So almost anything except for like rolls on a particular table.
And you're probably never going
to need to save that cannon shot.
You're never going to waste it on a to hit or a to wound roll. You're going to save it for a ward save, or when you get hit with dwellers below or something and you need to reroll that strength test.
Yeah.
It's so nice for a taking a 300-point character and giving this to potentially just save his life at some point in the game.
I like the fluff bit that they've got on top of it there. The runesmith who first struck this rune acquired a fortune in gold through his gambling.
Hell yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a nice one. And again, you could stack that with any of the other runes because it's only 15 points.
Yeah. No reason to not take it on your expensive.
Yeah, 5-up ward save for 35 plus 15 points for a Rune of Luck.
Yep.
That's not bad at all. And then the last one, the Rune of Furnace, which we've alluded to, is 5 points. Then it's the Dragonbane Gem.
The Dragonbane Gem.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, and that's great at 5 points. Yeah.
I do put that on. I do put that on one of my runesmiths just to.
Why not?
Stand there and tank stuff.
For sure. Anything with the flaming attacks, you're going to be able to just sit there and take it. All right, so last set of runes, and I know we've covered a ton of the tactics, so I don't think there's going to be a huge amount once we're done with these.
No.
So the last set of runes is the engineering runes. These are the ones that go on the war machines. Mm-hmm. So worth noting that any war machine that has a rune inscribed on it counts as having magical attacks. So if you fight against high elves a lot, you're probably not going to want to do that too much. However,
it's only one unit.
That's only one unit. Take out everything else and you
win
win the
game. High elves don't do Death Stars most of the time.
I don't know. I think that maybe not a Death Star, but I'm seeing more and more lists with a quarter to a third of their points hiding behind the banner of the World Dragon.
In what kind of unit?
Either White Lions or Dragon Princes. Yeah.
Dirty dogs.
Dirty dogs. Because you can't shoot either of those buggers off the field easily. Anyway, back to dwarves. So interestingly, these runes are all reasonably inexpensive. Compared to all the other runes,
certain war machines need multiples, and then it becomes expensive.
Yep.
We'll go into that.
I think Rune of Accuracy is too much, but too much for bolt throwers.
So
for
we've got-
the other guys' display. But go on.
Let's get to them in order.
Two
here.
master runes for this.
Two master
guy.
runes, yeah.
I'm grumpy.
Yeah.
I don't really like either of the master runes, to be honest.
So-
but I know Ricky has a soft spot, right?
I would probably not take them unless I was doing a gun line. If I was doing a gun line, then I would take both of them just for the fun of it.
So let's talk about what they give you first.
Mm-hmm.
So the Master Rune of Immolation is one use only, 30 points. And any war machine that's engraved with this, you can cause it to explode at the end of any round of combat before the combat results are determined.
Mm-hmm.
So the war machine is removed, but then you do 2d6 magical strength 4 hits with the flaming attack special rule on the unit that charged you, or that's in base-to-base contact with you. So it's and it also goes off automatically when the war machine is destroyed, which is probably the more likely thing you're going to have happen.
So here's how this guy works. You put this on the cheap bolt thrower, so you're at 85 points.
Yep.
You put this in front of your big block that you don't plan on actually moving. Maybe it's the Iron Drakes, right, that are going to be able to shoot anyway, shoot around it. Anybody who wants to get into combat with them has to go through this. You shoot a couple times with this war machine. Maybe an organ gun would be better. Who knows? Because then you're just maximizing the number of shots, right? They charge in. You don't put any of the runes on it because you know it's going to die. And then whatever hits that thing, boom, it explodes. And because you're usually putting your war machines down later in your deployment phase, depending on who you are, you're going to be able to put that right in front of the big juicy Death Star that's coming at your face. And so then that, it's a 30-point thing that you have to sacrifice a war machine for, but
it's only 85 points total, which it falls under the under 100 points chaff unit kind of thing.
Another use
chaff
for this
unit
could be
deletion too.
I would generally place like cannons kind of behind my line of infantry, so they're shooting over the top. And then if I'm going to put one of those cannons kind of towards the flank where people are going to be sending their war machine hunters down.
Exactly.
Things people use to
That's
get
exactly
war machines,
what I was
fast
thinking.
cav, harpies, things like that. They hit this war machine first and
Blow
boom.
up.
Yeah. You have
gone.
if you have scenery on one side anchoring
Yeah.
and protecting your war machines, and then this exploding war machine on the other side. It's like
the war machine
even if
hunter
you
is gone.
don't do it, the fact that you could do it should be enough to make your opponents wary.
Sure.
So I have a question. So it happens before determining the combat results.
Yes.
So, and it removes the war machine.
Yes.
So the unit counts as being wiped out. Does that mean you get the overrun?
They
or
do.
you-
It says right in there.
They do
you
get the overrun.
Okay.
But hopefully, if you don't roll terribly on that dice roll, then
There's
that-
nothing left
But
to
yeah,
overrun
so
with.
if you're castling in the corner and you put that guy, your war machines are behind your line, like
as
you
your
say,
most accessible
Yep.
war machine.
that's
and
your
then-
bait. And people just won't know it. They'll think, oh, he probably tried to upgrade that.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to count runes
Or
in
they'll
an
be
army.
like, oh, I out-deployed this guy. I've got this avenue down there to get to the war machines.
and then boom.
Boom!
Yep.
Eat
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you play that guy a second time, then you don't even need to spend the points.
Right.
You just put the bolt thrower out there. Yeah.
All right,
Right.
I'm coming round.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a
like it.
psychological
Sure.
rune for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's fun.
The next one is not too exciting.
Just going back to that a minute, what I would do is I would paint the symbol for the Rune of Immolation on one of my war machines, but not actually pay to have it on there. And then people would be like, oh,
Nice.
that one's
That's
got
funny.
that.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine the dwarves also they're painting it
Yeah,
on before the
painting
battle, like,
The runesmith's like, that's not real.
and they're like, shh, don't tell anybody.
Nice. Okay, so the Master Rune of Disguise ends 25 points.
Meh.
This is, I think, a bit meh. Always count as being in hardcover. I mean, you're toughness 7 anyway,
Yeah.
and you're going to be at long range for almost everything.
And the thing that people use to shoot war machines off the board is other cannons.
Yeah.
They don't care, so...
Yeah.
Now, if it counted as being behind an obstacle, it
Yeah.
would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome, and that's what it should be.
And
Yeah.
I think we used to be able to do that. The engineers used to be able to entrench. Are we still able to do
You're
that?
still able
I
to
think you can
entrench.
do that, yeah.
So,
Yeah, but the entrench rule, I
but
think...
it doesn't give you the wall, does
I
it?
don't... Let me just...
It might just be hardcover again.
Yeah.
No, it's just -1.
Oh.
It's in hardcover and -1 to hit in close combat. So it's exactly the same as if you were behind a wall
But
without
you
not
aren't
actually
actually being behind
the
the wall.
bonus against shooting.
Yeah.
Shooting from cannons
Yeah,
is what we're all
exactly.
looking for here. Yeah.
Because then it would be super good if you could
Yeah.
do that. Because all of a sudden, because I'm telling you, my grudge throwers are just getting cannoned off every
Yeah.
game, and it's so frustrating. And you're like, why do I even bother with these things? And yeah, but anyways,
Yep. Okay, so that's 2 master runes. So on to the regular runes. You've got a rune of penetration or rune of penetrating.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because dwarfs need runes for this sort of thing.
What about the rule of double penetrate?
yeah, double penetration.
All right, you guys, simmer down. Okay, so it's 40 points for a single
50
rune
points, double
and
penetration.
50 points for 2.
Fiery ring.
Shut up. The first one at 40 points increases the strength of shots by 1 to a maximum of 10. And 50 points is the same, plus you get to reroll a single failed to wound roll during the course of the battle. So 40 points, your grudge thrower goes from being strength 3 to strength 4.
Which would be great, but it's just too expensive.
It's way too
It
expensive.
becomes a
for what it was.
95 points
Yeah.
grudge thrower.
Yeah, if they
Wait,
could,
what? More grudge thrower is 80
Yeah.
base, right?
Oh, is it 80 base?
80
Oh, it's the
base.
bolt thrower that's 55 base.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 120 points
120
now.
for a strength 4
Yeah.
yeah.
grudge
Now,
thrower.
So good if it was 25. And,
Yeah.
but
It just needs to
if
be
it was-
less. There's no reason for
yeah,
it to
if
be
it
that
was
much.
25 and 40, I would take it because
Mhm.
that there are so many times where you roll a 1 on that one monster that you just need to die before it gets into your line,
yeah.
and just having that reroll would be worth a few extra
Mhm.
points. So
Absolutely.
if you are
Yep.
paying the 40 points,
You may as
you
well.
may as well pay
Sure.
the extra 10 for that reroll. But
Isn't that what happened when I tried to shoot your Kadai? Oh, no, you rolled your ward save.
I did roll a 1.
Yeah.
I think you rolled a 1 once, though.
Did I roll a 1 to wound?
Maybe.
It feels like something I would do.
yeah,
Stupid Alathanar.
so many ones tonight.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get through these because we're pushing along the time here.
All right.
Definitely running the record for longest podcast so far. So Stalwart Rune, 15 points and 30 points, +1 to your combat result score,
Nah.
and Unbreakable for the second one.
Boo.
You don't
Boo.
ever want your war machines to be in
Exactly.
combat.
I mean, and if somebody's going to get in combat with it, whatever, I'm happy to let it
Yeah,
go.
if
It's
you're
done its
doing-
job.
If you're doing a gun line and you have the standard that also gives you the +1 bonus, maybe, but even then, not worth it.
Why just make the war machine blow up instead?
Exactly. Let's just go for fun and just blow stuff up. You know?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. You think about the special choices that you have. I mean, you can fill out a lot of points with war machines.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you know, you could take an army where there was a significant portion of it were just war machines.
Sure.
And if you were doing that, then some of these ones, you know, might be worthwhile taking.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, the first stack of this 15 points that does give you variety in the rune combos.
Yeah.
So you might end up taking one of these just to get that variety that you do need.
that's
But,
true.
But I think there's better combos you
yeah.
can make.
Yeah, for sure.
Most of the time. So let's go into the really.
The rune of taking it all the time, which is rune of accuracy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the next few are the great ones. So
Yeah, +1 bonus to hit. And if you don't use ballistic skill, you can re-roll the scatter dice.
So great on every war machine.
Yeah,
+1 to
25
hit for
points.
your organ gun. Beautiful. And, you know, re-rolling.
I would
for-
definitely take this on an organ gun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
I take it on my grudge throwers for sure.
the percentage of
Actually, yeah,
points.
there's no point having this on a cannon, but those
Nope.
other two.
Nope.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, bolt throwers,
Yeah, bolt
Grudge-
throwers, grudge
grudge
throwers,
Yeah.
organ
organ
gun.
gun.
On every
Anything
organ
ballistic
gun is
skill,
having
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the rune of forging, 25 points. This
This is
is
the one you have on everything.
a re-roll the
Yeah.
artillery dice when you roll a misfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every cannon needs that, and probably the organ gun as well.
Grudge
Yeah.
throwers as well.
Grudge thrower too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, having been on the receiving end of cannon more than being on the firing end, those buggers seem to never blow up and always kill my tree men. So I look at this and think that's 25 points.
I don't need that.
Wasted. Yeah.
But as somebody who shoots with cannons a lot, I can tell you do in fact need that.
Yeah.
And often, in fact, double misfires do happen.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
It's frustrating, but you gotta, for 25 points.
These are points, from my perspective, those are points that I could not spend if I wanted to have other things in the army book. So, but then I imagine the list that I would put together would probably have fewer cannons.
Sure, probably.
People, yeah.
When I'm paying 120 points for a cannon, I'm going to pay 25 points to keep it alive.
Yeah,
yep.
That's the way I look at it.
Yep. Okay. So the next rune is the rune of useless. Oh, sorry, no, Flaxen's rune of seeking. 15 points +1 to hit against any units with fly. Yeah,
Stinker, situational.
It's situational at best. And then lastly, the Rune of Burning, 5 points to get the Flaming Attack special rule.
Sure.
I can see this on a couple, mostly because that extra 5 points allows you to double up.
And if I'm going to take 2 cannons, one might as well be Flaming to go after Hell Pits and not Hydras anymore.
No,
but
Trolls,
Chimeras.
Treemen, anything that's got regen or flammable.
Yeah, this one, I think you almost need it on one War Machine. Thankfully, it's cheap.
Yeah.
But because dwarves do rely on shooting, there really isn't any list that doesn't have at least some shooting. You need to get rid of that regen first and then follow it up.
Yeah, and I think where it's excellent is if you are taking a bunch of Quarrelers or Rangers or anything that doesn't have that, like not the non-Iron Drakes, right? Especially if you take this on a cannon, you shoot that unit of Trolls, you're almost guaranteed to kill one or two. But more importantly, then all your pew pew guys can shoot a few more off.
Why not? If you're going to take 2 cannons, or 2 grudge throws, probably no reason to not have that on one of them.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely. All right, so
the whole book.
Is the whole book.
We did it.
Woo! It only took us 6 hours. So moving on to army lists, then we've got a couple of prepared army lists. Mine is less prepared than Ricky and Tom's, but we'll go through these. These are kind of lists that we have either played or could see ourselves playing in a tournament all-comers situation. And so this is we're looking to, this is a 2,500 points, which is kind of the common in our area, and I think reasonably standard across certainly across the US for points value and uncomped. So Ricky, yours, I've played your list, or at least a variant of it. You've played it quite a few times now. Let's start with yours.
I think it's a good one to start with because, at least in terms of the units in it, it's going to be pretty similar to a lot of
stuff
we might end up seeing.
Yeah, and a bunch of stuff that we've read online.
So, just really quick, I don't like black powder, so my lists never include black powder.
That's where it's going to differ from the power lists.
So you'll notice that when we get to the War Machines, there won't be cannons and or thunders.
Ricky doesn't like these newfangled contraptions.
I know. I'm one of those old-fashioned dwarves. I grumble at those kinds of things.
But I think that's easily tradable.
It is. I don't think you need cannons to win. Maybe I do because I've never really won. But I think that just might be me still learning the army.
The new dwarfs,
and the other thing is I'm really infantry heavy at this point. I haven't added any gyrocopters, so that's another thing you're going to see.
Okay.
All right, so to start, I capitalized on the leadership 10 on the Thanes. Now, so I'm using a Thane as my general. He has the Master Rune of Snorri Spanglehelm, so he's going to always hit on a 2-up, and then he has the 1 stack of Rune of Might, so he's double strength against toughness 5 or higher. He's going to be kind of for killing stuff, right?
You don't say.
Yeah. Then he's got a Rune of Iron ×1, which gives him 1 extra wound and 1 extra toughness. Just 1 extra wound. 1 extra wound. So right now he's 3 wounds. So he's kind of a poor man's lord. And then he has 1 Rune of Stone. So right now he's got a 2-up save, leadership 10, 3 wounds. Kind of just a basic guy. He's only 143 points. I kept him cheap, right?
That's very cheap.
Okay. Next is the Thane Battle Standard Bearer. Master-Runa Grungy. Have to have it.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's probably going to be what my BSB has 90% of the time.
So just to remind everyone, that's the 4-up ward save and then 5 up to everything within 6 inches against shooting and magic missiles.
And a shield.
Yes, he has the shield.
153 points.
No, he has 2 stacks of Runa Sanctuary, because that paired with the Master Runa Grungy gives magic missiles 3-up ward save.
Yep.
So putting him where against anything that might be taking a lot of magic damage helps. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
So he tends to pop into a unit with the Thane General into a big unit of 25 Hammerers. And then they have the standard of Master Rune of Growth One Eye. And we went into that earlier. That's the one that gives the bubble stubborn. And we kind of talked about its strengths and weaknesses. For me, I'm going to try playing it the other way, see how it works. But I might just end up going back to it. Who knows? I still think it's a really strong rune. So in the other character slots, I have 2 runesmiths. Because I want to have one in each of my 2 units of Longbeards, which I'm coming to in a second. But the runesmiths, so of course, one has the rune of spellbreaking stacked twice, so he gets the auto dispel plus the 4-up roll to get rid of the spell indefinitely, and he's got the rune of furnace, so he can take the 2-up ward against flaming. He's got rune of stone, obvious auto include, I think, because with his shield that gives him his 2-up, and then 2-up against flaming. So pretty good. And then he has 1 rune of speed for 5 points. So he's hitting at a slightly higher initiative. There's really no advantage to him having that except for ethereal. And I finally put that rune of speed on there just because I did go up against some ethereal stuff and I found it frustrating. The second runesmith, he's only got 1 rune of spell breaking stacked once, so he's just going to dispel 1 spell. He also has the rune of stone, so he's got the 2-up armor. Then he has the rune of speed and the rune of fire, so he's to try and negate regen. Because you can deploy them separately or later. You can have, put the rune of fire across the table from the regen unit that's coming at you. Okay. Then my core is 2 Longbeard units. They're exactly the same. They're 24 Longbeards with hand weapon and shield. A runesmith goes in each one of those. There's no runes on their standards. Right,
because you've already got stubborn for them.
Yeah,
from
they're already
the bubble.
stubborn. They're immune to psych already. And, they're just, with the runesmith in there, they're strength 4, armor piercing. They're just awesome core unit. 342 each. So I'm a little over the core tax, but I actually tried running them at 20, and I felt like they were dying too fast. So taking them up to 25 really does seem to help. Again, the hammers, 25 of those. Once I get the BSB and the Thane in there, that's 27 models. I've started running the hammers. At first, I was running them 5 wide, but I just waste so many attacks doing that, and they're stubborn anyways, so I just started putting them wide. The problem with them is, with the hammers wide, is you don't get to pass the bubble off as easily. The shooting bubble, that is. Because usually your BSB is going to be centered so that he can reach both units on either side.
I'd go 7 wide as a compromise, I think.
So I'm probably going to kind of play with my widths until I either settle somewhere between, like 7 to the full horde, but who knows. Then I have 2 grudge throwers, both with Rune of Accuracy, both with Rune of Forging, 1 with Rune of Burning. So one's 130, one's 135. I love grudge throwers. I think they're fun to play. They're they are kind of random sometimes, so that does kind of bite you in the butt. I used to always try and include the bolt throwers, but we already kind of went over the changes that kind of broke them.
Yeah.
So those don't get to be in my list anymore. Those are really the only 2 war machines I have, just those 2 grudge throwers. Then I have a unit of miners. I think miners are great value for their points. 10 points each, a unit of 10. They can pop up on the board edge. I haven't paid the points because I just didn't really have them to give them, any kind of upgrades. I don't think they really need them either.
Mm-hmm.
And then my rare are 2 units of 15 Rangers. That's 220 points each. And the Rangers, they just speak for themselves. I might be taking this down a few model count down, or maybe just 1 in each, and that'd give me a few more points to put into hammers to make the hammers just a little bit bigger and killier. So I don't know, but the 15s seem to work pretty well because I can deploy them 3 ranks deep if I'm deploying them to actually fight early in the game, or I deploy them 2 ranks deep if I'm deploying them to shoot. So that gives me a little versatility on how to use them. So, and then that's the list, 2,497 points. So
Cool.
That's
just kind
Good
of
stuff.
yeah.
all right. Do you want to go through your list, Tom?
Over to my list. Okay, so my list, I kind of designed somewhat of a themed list, but also because it's me, I wanted to make it pretty powerful. So it's kind of themed but powerful. So the theme is, in the Dwarf book, page 28, there's a list of different clans, kind of with their little insignia, and there's some history. And the one that really spoke to me was Clan Gunnison. They sounded really cool. They're like... I'll just read this little bit. Black-bearded and fierce, the dwarfs of Clan Gunnison trace their ancestry back to the warrior Gunn, son of Morgrim, son of Grimnir himself. And then their fluff is kind of... They lost their stronghold to a giant orc invasion a little while ago, and since then they kind of fragmented, and some went to Karaz-a-Karak, some tried to retake their hold and got killed, and then the remaining faction kind of went into the mountains. So it says of that faction, this last contingent is hardened veterans all, and has never settled in a home for more than a few generations, and ranges the World's Edge Mountains hunting orcs. So I read that and it sounded really cool, and from the description, it's saying they roam the mountains, and they're all hardened veterans, so I'm thinking Longbeards and Rangers as kind of the majority of the list, to
Very
represent
fluffy.
a veteran force, but also the kind of mountain scouting ranges. So tactic-wise, it's kind of a hybrid combat shooting list. I have enough artillery in there, I think, to generally force my opponents towards me and allow me to counterpunch. But on the occasions that I come up against the stronger gun line, I think I have the kind of protection for my units to get them forward and into combat. So just running through it quickly, my general is a lord on shield bearers, who's kind of a tank. He has the double rune of fortitude, which gives him the extra toughness and a 5-up ward. Combine that with the 5 wounds he has from being on the shield bearers and 1-up armor. Pretty sweet. I use basically the same magic weapon as Ricky's general, with Snorri Spangle Helm and Might, and a rune of speed just to get him hitting a bit quicker. And then I give him that rune of luck that we were talking about before to save his life on those characteristic tests where he's going to need it. My BSB is a Thane, just with the shield, and the Master Rune of Grungni, of course. This is going to be in most of our lists.
I think so.
So yeah, that's the bubble ward save against shooting. And then I take just 1 rune smith. I would like more, but I felt like I could only fit 1 in. Yeah. And he has the double spell breaking, a rune of stone to get him the armor save, a rune of iron. I can't remember what that does right now. Is that an extra wound?
That's extra wound. Yeah.
Extra wound, I think. Okay, yeah. So I tried to make him a little more survivable.
Yeah, 3 wounds with a 2-up armor save.
Yeah,
they stick around.
Solid.
I've had the whole unit of Longbeards wiped out and the runesmith standing there before.
Yep.
Because that 2-up is just so good, which goes to show that Ironbreakers are going to be.
Yeah.
Super good.
So I guess one of the main differences from Ricky's list is that I try and get all of my combat output from the core section without spending points on hammers from special, because I wanted to take quite a bit of artillery, which I'm going to need the points for elsewhere. So that my core is just split into 2 units of longbeards, classic kind of hammer and anvil. Nice. I have 25 longbeards with shields, with hand weapon shield, and they have a banner with stoicism. So they're going to be stubborn, 25 of them just in a 5x5 block with the shields. They're going to let people charge them and just hang in there. Yeah. And then they're going to have the runesmith with them for armor piercing on their strength 4 weapons.
Yeah, they'll need it.
And then the hammer is 30 longbeards with great weapons.
Awesome.
And I put shields on them too because I want to give them a bit of protection against.
They look so good. The models
shooting.
for them are so good.
Yeah, so I love the longbeard models. That was another reason to get these 2 units in there. So the BSB and the general are going to go into this unit, making it like a real kind of blender unit.
Super killy then.
Yeah, the strength 6. Longbeards can deal with pretty much anything, and if something, too tough for them to even deal with gets into the unit, then you have that Lord who's just going to blend them up with his Rune of Might. So that's my 2 combat units, and they're going to obviously stay within 6 inches of each other, so they can both benefit from that ward save against shooting.
What was the runes on them again?
So the second Longbeard unit has Stoicism again and a Sanctuary.
Okay, cool.
So now they both have magic resistance as well, because
at least 1 point.
The Runesmith is going in one of them, and then the second one has Sanctuary.
Awesome.
Which helps protect my 2 characters who are in that unit too.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, then moving into special section, I take 2 cannons. I have no qualms against black powder like Ricky does.
A homeless clan. How are they going to have black
powder?
Well,
this is where I diverge from the fluff a little to keep the room competitive. So that's the 2 sides of my Warhammer personality competing.
I don't blame you. Go on.
So they have their 2 cannons, both with a rune of forging for the reroll on the misfire, and one with flame. So that one's going to target the regen stuff, and then the other one is going to target big stuff. So those are my kind of spot removal things. I see the big guys that I need to take out, and I focus on them with that. My other 2 special units are 2 gyrocopters.
Nice.
Both of which just have the steam gun. And one I gave Vanguard to, although I'm starting to rethink that if I wanted those 20 points somewhere else, but I see that it could be nice. And these, whereas my cannons are targeting those big single models, these are going to fly out and pick on the little high damage output units of elves and stuff that need to get whittled down early.
Or use them for redirecting.
And use them for redirecting,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah. So versatile.
For movement phase shenanigans, exactly. And then in my rare section, I have an organ gun with accuracy and forging. So that's getting the reroll on misfire, and it's getting a bonus to hit. So that's targeting things like heavy cavalry, heavily armored units that need to be whittled down a little bit. So I think in terms of my war machines, I kind of cover all the bases with the cannons for removing big stuff, gyrocopters for taking down low toughness, low armor units, and then the organ gun for blasting cavalry and tough stuff.
Pew pew.
And then the remainder of my special goes on 2 units of 14 rangers. So this is again to fit in with the fluff, and also because I think rangers are awesome.
One model off from what I use.
That's the remainder of your rare, not special.
Oh yeah, the remainder of my rare. Sorry. So 2 units of 14 rangers. They come in at 216 points each, and I'm gonna deploy them at kind of strange angles to my opponent's battle line. The main utility I see from these guys is just deleting chaff really early in the game. Get it out there, because otherwise the movement phase is not going to be fun for the dwarfs.
Yeah, you got to free up that countercharge somehow.
Right. So get the dwarfs out the way, and I'm going to deploy them so that my opponent, if they're trying to get towards my main line where the guns are, they're going to have to try and walk past the rangers pretty much, and then the rangers are going to try and seek out some sweet flank charges.
Yeah.
Because in kind of full frontal combat, 14 dwarfs with great weapons hitting last are probably not going to do too well, but in flank charges
Yeah.
they're really gonna
I've noticed that once
pretty well.
if something big gets in on them, they tend to die pretty quick.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
against other people's chaff, they're so good.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use them against
Always
chaff.
surprised how people charge in and they're like, they have great weapons?
Right, exactly.
Yes, they do.
And I'm going to make people kind of decide whether, either you're going to use some of your units to try and take down these rangers, but if you do so, you're not using units that could be coming towards my main line where the big guns are kind of blowing you apart. So it forces them into a choice. And yeah, fluffy for my theme, so I like it.
All right, cool.
So that's it.
Okay, so I think my list was a little bit less well thought through.
You just put the things that you really like in there.
Well, I had an idea behind what I was doing when I created it. I really like Ricky's list, having played it, and again sharing a dislike of all things black powder. However, what I was trying to do with this list was create something that was not a list that where you were ever going to castle, where that strategy just more or less wasn't open to you, whether you wanted it or not. So that's what I've got with this, and I'll talk you through it pretty quickly. So I actually took a lord. I popped him on some shield bearers with an oath stone. He's got my flying hammer. The master rune of flight and a rune of might.
Did you name him Thor?
Of course. He's also got the rune of preservation, rune of stone, rune of iron. So he's a little harder to kill than normal. So he comes in at 315 points. I took a Thane BSB. I also took the Master Rune of Grungni. It seems like this is going to be, there's got to be a reason why you're not taking that.
It's hard to convince yourself not to.
Yeah, for sure.
There are other choices, but it sure is a hard choice.
It's a tough choice. And I popped also the Rune of Sanctuary on that. I like that magic resistance one. So it's a 4-up ward basically across the board. And then I've got a runesmith who's got double rune of spell breaking in there. So for my core, I took 40 longbeards. So a big unit. It's pretty much my only big unit. I wanted them to really more be an anvil than a hammer. So I took them just with hand weapon and shield. And they've got the full command in there. I got a unit of 10 quarrelers. These guys are kind of for protecting the flank of the war machines, and also potentially just a throwaway unit if I absolutely need to. It's only 120 points. I know you generally don't want to be doing that, but again, these guys can be protected somewhat by the Master Rune and so forth. As I mentioned earlier, I'm taking triple gyrocopter. So
wait, what made up your core again?
Longbeards and Quarrelers.
Longbeards and Quarrelers.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I do like the idea of having double Longbeard in the core. Two units of Longbeards I think is probably the best choice. I was deliberately trying to do something a little different.
Sure.
With what I got. I'm taking 3 gyrocopters. I like what I said earlier about them to be able to direct the flow of the combat and flow of other people's units. I'm taking 2 cannons. I think I didn't put any runes on them or anything like that. It's just 2 flat out. I'm going to shoot you, and if they blow up, they blow up. They're still more accurate than almost everything else in the game in terms of shooting and killing. So,
yep.
True dat.
Totally broken cannons.
Yep. So, and then the rest of my special, I've got 2 units of 20 miners. And each of them has the steam drill in there. Yeah.
Sweet.
So the idea, obviously, with this is
just completely throw your opponent off. All of a sudden, he has 40 dwarves.
He has 40 dwarves with great weapons coming from he doesn't know where.
Yeah,
and that's actually pretty hard to deal. It is terrifying, and it should be terrifying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I want my guys to be mobile, the easiest way for them to be mobile is to be able to come on from any board edge. So yeah, go ahead and deploy any way you like. I'm going to come up your backside.
So I realized I'd been playing them wrong.
Yeah.
So I think ambushers in 8th edition are now 3 up on turn 2 instead of 4 up. And it doesn't decrease, it's just always 3 up.
Oh, really? Is that what it is now?
Let me double check that again. But this came up the other night and I was like, wait a minute. Have I been playing this?
You've been playing as 4 up on the first turn.
And then decreasing, which is how it used to be. And I all of a sudden realized, so now the steam drill is even more important because
that gives
up.
you the +1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huh. Interesting.
So let me get over here really quick. Get to
the steam drill is reroll a failed arrival roll for ambushers, and it's also +3 strength instead of +2.
A unit with ambushers rule does not deploy at the start of the battle. Instead, from turn 2 onward, the controller player rolls a die at the start of his turn for each unit of his ambushers that have yet to arrive. On a 1 or 2, the ambushers have been delayed, but you'll be able to roll for them next turn. On a 3 or more, the unit of ambushers arrives and will enter the board during the remaining moves on phase. So
it's a flat 3 up. This is a 3 up with a reroll.
Yeah, so an 8 in 9 chance of them
coming on
up
at turn 2.
Yeah,
which is exactly when you want them.
Exactly.
So yeah, 235 points for 20 miners. I'm like, get there.
Yeah, they're so points efficient.
10
points for a great weapon.
I'm super excited about shoving those into somebody.
And the models are so cool too.
Yeah.
So they're fun.
Yep. And then my last remaining points go on 2 units of 10 Rangers.
Yeah.
So really, this army, the way that it's going to work is I've got those Longbeards there. They're going to kind of protect the cannon. The Quarrelers are going to be there to help shoot off anything that comes towards the Longbeards or the cannon. And everything else is pretty mobile for a Dwarf unit, right?
So your General and your BSB are going in that Longbeard
and the
Runesmith
in the Longbeard
So it makes
unit.
everything else in your army relatively throwaway in terms of point cost.
Exactly.
You don't want to throw it all away, but each individual unit can be sacrificed if it needs to be.
Yeah, and it's a little Death Star-y, not overtly.
Did your Longbeards have great weapons or hand weapon shield?
Hand weapon shield, so that I got the shield wall.
Sure.
And also for being a bit more defensive.
Yeah.
So I did play around with a build similar to this that had iron breakers, but you just can't get quite as good a unit because you obviously they're coming out of special points. So you still have to
you still have to take core. It makes it tough. Yeah.
So this is a really fun ambushy dwarf army that's going to play differently from people are used to seeing dwarves play.
Yeah. With 2 units of rangers and 2 miners popping up, there's going to be like dwarfs all over the place.
It is,
they're
exactly.
They're not going to know what's happening.
Yeah. And I use the rangers to take out war machines.
Yeah.
The thing and wizards, right? These are the 2 things that I worry about from a dwarf standpoint is those ranged multiple damage kind of things. And this is a potential way to deal with that.
Cool.
All right.
So last topic then on the dwarfs. How do you beat them?
How do you beat them?
Yeah, this is, I think...
Make me play them and you'll win.
You said that last time too.
So, honestly, as much as I love this new dwarf book... I don't think it's particularly hard to beat.
No, it's
I mean, I would use basically pretty similar tactics to how I've always beaten dwarfs. Most of my experience against dwarfs has been with my beastmen.
Yep.
And in that case, just throw a lot of fast stuff towards the war machines, make them choose whether to shoot that fast stuff and miss the opportunities to shoot my big hordes.
Yep.
Or if they don't, they're going to get charged turn 2 or 3 by that fast stuff. At the same time, I'm just getting my big hordes right towards them, and I don't think that even still, dwarfs are a very good match for beastmen in combat. Yeah. I think the dwarfs come off worse in that matchup. So I think it's mainly just about applying pressure to the war machines and making them make difficult choices with the war machines while getting combat units up in their faces quickly.
Yep.
Because I think their combat stuff is still a little overpriced for what it does.
Yeah, still only having one unit that has 2 attacks means that everybody else isn't throwing out a lot, and the points on them overall are high enough that you can't have huge blocks of them easily across the table. Of course, like you could have maybe 1 or 2 big blocks, or 2 big blocks and maybe half a big block, so like 2.5 maybe, but you're not really going to be able to get much more than that, and so yeah.
But I do think I think now dwarfs do have a better answer to the tactic I just said, which is having like kind of throwaway gyrocopters to redirect my combat units that are coming towards them.
And not only that, they're going to not only redirect those units, but also take out those faster moving.
Sure, exactly.
Smaller units, yeah.
Yeah, and with rangers being really nice, they'll help kind of delete some of the chaff I'm trying to use for that purpose.
Yeah.
So I would still try and employ that same tactic playing against them, but I would expect it to be a little more challenging with the better combat phase options that better movement phase options that dwarfs have now.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, as a Wood Elf player, is particularly playing and embodying that MSU style, I would very much be trying to take out the war machines as quickly as possible. There's a huge threat to the tree men in the unit in my army for that. So I'm vanguarding up. I'm shooting at those guys, because they only need 6s to wound to try and take them out. Take out the war machines. At which point, you've kind of neutralized the immediate threat, because the threat of the combat units is still comparatively slow. And even with guys coming into ambush, I'm more worried about, I need to move my archers and stuff out of the way. So I'm thinking that, from an MSU perspective, you're probably going to want to be a little more spread out than maybe you normally would be. But really it's the same tactics. Soften everything up with shooting and then multiple charges. I just think they're harder to soften up with shooting and harder to win against with those charges because of the shield wall and so forth.
And the better options for dealing with chaff.
Better
options for countering your kind of movement phase.
I'm going to have to take out those gyrocopters pretty quickly.
Oath stones are going to make give MSU players
It's true.
A lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So that's
why I took one in my
but the weakness to the Oath Stone is they go on a character that can't refuse a challenge. So if you can kill that character in combat, you issue a challenge and they have to accept, and then you can kill it and break that Oath Stone. So that's something to keep in mind too.
Yeah, for sure.
So in terms of overall power level, where do you see them in the kind of current Warhammer field?
Oh, middle of the road.
I see them pretty middle. And I think like the really top tier players are not going to be seen bringing dwarfs to a tournament, just because the super top tier players generally like
movement
to use armies that completely dominate the movement phase, where that's not really going to be dwarfs. But for a normal player, for a normal player, I think they're going to be a fun army to use and a solidly performing army.
I think they are, so the sorts of person that should choose the dwarfs, if they are thinking about like your first army or maybe your second army, why would you choose dwarfs? I think they have a unique play style. I don't think there's any other army that plays like them. Oh,
bless you.
Pardon me.
Whew. You're allergic to dwarves.
Yeah. They have incredible artillery options open to them. There's no doubt about that. So if that's the kind of thing that you enjoy, you can go to town on artillery.
Gun lines.
Yeah.
Literal gun lines.
They are an army of a lot of infantry, right? So, artillery aside, you've got no cavalry choices, no wizard choices, no monster choices, right? This is an infantry army.
Yeah.
So if you like having a ranked up infantry, and the nice part about it is, your infantry is going to stay on the table for most of the battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to be running away like,
you're never going to get
skinks or
tabled
goblins
turn 2 pretty much.
Yeah.
Or turn 3 like some armies can.
You're
going to be you're going to be grinding it out.
You're going to be grinding it out, and you're going to frustrate a lot of opponents.
Yeah.
You're going to have I don't think once you've gotten used to playing the army, I think it's unlikely you're ever going to get those massive upsets of 20-0 losses. And it's also, this is the downside of the army is I think it's going to be tricky to get those big 20-0 wins.
I think so too. Yep.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I can see some cases where you're going to get 20-0 wins if you are able to pop off the big monsters and stuff early in the game.
Yep.
And force your opponent towards you and soften them up enough for your units to just dominate them in combat.
Yeah. The tricky part is you don't have any unit with massive damage output.
Sure.
Right. The hammers is the best you've got.
But they're squishy.
They're squishy. Yeah. So it's definitely, you got to pick your battles. You got to countercharge, and you got to be patient. And honestly, and this is what to me makes the dwarf book awesome. If you think like a dwarf, you will enjoy playing the dwarves. Sure. It's that simple.
Yep.
And aesthetically, it's a really
it's a
such
nice looking
army to play with, especially if you like the aesthetic of big, like metallic, big hard blocks of ironclad infantry.
Yeah, and a lot of interesting variation among that, including the Slayers who don't have any.
Sure.
And there's a lot of character to all of these models. So
the two new infantry kits really
very nice,
very
and there's
nice
a lot of good alternatives as well. There's
a lot of different manufacturers for sure.
Dwarfs are pretty easy to come across. So I think middle of the pack. I think you spend a lot of time playing this army and you can do really well with it.
I think so too, and I think after the change, it's more conducive to rewarding good generalship rather than just the old dwarf army seemed to be anyone would pick them up and do relatively well with them. This, it seems like your generalship is gonna play more of a factor in how well you do.
And I think there's a lot more variety in it now. There's different viable play styles. And if you're playing the same opponent over and over, I think there's things in here that can easily be tailored to deal with just about anything.
Sure, with the rune system, if you know what you're coming up against, you can tailor some really powerful combos.
Because they gave you movement now, so you can move. You can scout, you can ambush. So people who are doing gun lines against you can get to them quicker. Things like that. So,
Yeah, and I think one thing we didn't really touch on, and one thing you probably don't think about too often, is different points values. I think the dwarfs will do really well in those sort of 1,000 and 1,500 point battles.
Yeah, they do scale nicely.
And I think that's when we'll start to see dwarf warriors in lists, where you are taking fewer points. And I think there's those sort of warband tournaments that pop up on Friday nights before big 2-day tournaments. I think dwarfs have a great potential to kick butt, especially on a smaller playing field.
I think on the small scale battles, dwarfs will do well because, having that flat 2-up dispel, you're not constantly struggling to fit as many wizard levels into your army as possible, so you can just allocate those points to better places.
Absolutely.
Whereas other armies in lower point battles, it always seems like you're just struggling to squeeze in wizard levels. And it ends up wasting a bunch of your points.
Okay, all right. So just to wrap it up, favorite thing from the book? One thing. Doesn't matter what it is.
Just from the book as a whole?
Yeah, what's your favorite thing about the book? One thing.
Oh my god.
Putting you on the spot now.
I'm just going to say gyrocopters, just because for me they're the biggest change from this book and the last, and make the biggest change to the playstyle.
All right. Ricky?
The amount of stubborn you can get. To me, that feels dwarfy.
It does feel very
It's
dwarfy.
just I want my dwarves to fight to the bitter end, and you can do it now. So,
Yep. All right. I think my favorite has to be the Master Rune of Flight.
Yeah, flying hammer.
I just love it. I love the idea of it. I love the fact that people aren't going to see it coming until it smacks them in between the eyes.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Oversized meatball.
All right. So that was the Dwarf book. Thanks very much for sticking with us all the way through it.
Yeah.
It's been a long discussion. We're going to wrap it up now.
Back to kind of regular sections.
Back to regular sections next time. And I'm not entirely sure exactly what the program will be, but we look forward to talking to you again in a couple of weeks. That was the Ricky's gyrocopter going past.
The humanity.
Yeah, it's reached that stage of the night. All right, folks, thanks for sticking with us. Goodbye.
Good night.